we're going live right now over on the YouTube and Twitch. All right, let's see here. Richie.
What's up?
Richie, did you vote left, right, or non-voter / third party? Which one did you do, Richie?
Non-voter third party, but I just wanted to say, if you don't mind one thing, Destiny destroyed you.
I hear you. Let's talk about it, bud.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. Cool. So first and foremost, do you actually know who I am?
Yes, your name is Santana.
Cool. Have you ever seen me before? Do you know what this is?
Yeah, you're a liberal. You're a black activist. Yeah.
Not a liberal. And cool, you actually labeled me a black activist. I've never been called a black activist. W's for you. Thank you. Cool. So you don't know what this actually is, though, do you?
What do you mean
cool.
when you say this?
Let me just give you a quick introduction to who I actually am and what this is, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event. Let's get ready to rumble!
Y'all ready for this? Guys, welcome in. This is Sparring with Santana, one-on-one debates with everyone. If you disagree with anything in the box, or if you're an asshat like Richie, who for some reason thinks that Destiny mocked me, get in the box. Let's talk about it. Guys, while we're here, let's do all the wonderful things. Tap the screen, share the live. Let's get the likes up to 50,000 likes. Let's get the shares up. Also, we do have our daily gift goal, which is the pink heart puffs. If we can knock those out, it will help push us out to the FYP. And with that being said, Richie, tell me, how did Destiny destroy me?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So he basically gave you a syllogism, and it absolutely just destroyed your entire everything you stand for.
Sure.
Which, let's be clear, racism should be anyone should be against blatant racism.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that he asked you a question.
Mm-hmm.
He said,
so did you hear what I was saying? Because one, I was constantly being muted. Two, if you watched it from his YouTube, you couldn't hear me. But three, we were talking over each other. So would you like to actually defend that point that your boy Destiny said that he was defending?
Oh, yes, because I heard.
Sure. Perfect. Okay. Go ahead and ask the same questions.
Yeah. So the question he asked you was on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you lynch somebody, 0 being you call someone
and strange fruit. Watch the words. We're on TikTok.
Oh, sorry. Well, his word was 10 being you ly someone, 0 being you call someone a big meanie. What would you have rated the Z incident?
No. That's not what he said. You misheard. You sure you listened to that one, bud?
I did. He said, "What would you rate?"
He said, no. He said, "What is acceptable?" He said, "What is acceptable?" And not only did he ask, that was his question. He said, on a scale from 1 to 10, which 10 being strange fruiting someone, and which 1 being calling someone a big meanie, what is acceptable? And I clarified with him. I said, are you asking the question, what is an acceptable level of racism? He said, yes. Now that we are clarified, Richie, ask your question. Ask your question.
Yeah, the question then would be, can any white person be?
No. The first one first. And 1 second, Ari, I appreciate the shares. Thank you so much, but we don't want to share too much. Spam sharing will hurt the live. That's good. We're good. Thank you so much, Ari. I appreciate you so much. Thank you. Anyway, go ahead. The first one.
Yeah. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being that, 0 being calling someone a big meanie, how much racism is acceptable?
0.
Okay. And then he said, can any white person not racist?
No, he said, is there any white person that's not racist?
Correct.
Or I'm sorry, wait. To be specific, he said, is there any white person that's non-racist? And I said, no.
Okay. And then he then followed up by saying, well, you've just basically explained that you've created a racial movement it's a segregated movement that can't include white people. And you said, well, that's not true.
Right. Why did I say that's not true? Did you just watch the clip or did you watch the whole thing?
I watched the whole thing. And then
what did I say?
you followed it up by saying, well, there's a difference. Some people are trying to unpack their inherent racism, and the ones that are unpacking their inherent racism, even though they still are racist, they can be in the movement.
Yeah.
So there's an
So
issue with that.
what's the issue?
The issue is that no matter how, let me ask you a question, okay?
No.
matter
Explain the issue before you ask the question.
Sure. The issue is that no matter how much said person unpacks their racism, they will always be racist
Correct.
under your worldview because
Yes.
they are ultimately always benefiting from said system despite
Correct.
unpacking the racism. Therefore, if they're always racist, they can, and there's room for no racism, they can never be a part of the movement.
Sure. So, do you know what it means to be actively or passively racist?
Actively racist and passively racist. I would say passively racist would be when what you would call inherent racism. Active racism is when you actually are expressing racism in a manner that is actually blatant and more in an actual aggressive manner.
Right. So for someone who is deconstructing, someone that is actually trying to be better, they always have that inherent racism. They always will benefit from the patriarch, especially being here in the United States of America. But there is a difference between actively harming someone with your racism and understanding that you are a benefactor of racism while seemingly trying to use your privilege to uplift those marginalized groups. That's the difference. So when it comes to a movement, if there is someone who is trying to actually benefit marginalized communities with their proximity to the patriarch, then they are more than welcome in the quote unquote movement. And don't get it twisted. It's not just about race, right? It's about misogyny. Hey, Richie, are you misogynist?
No, I'm not.
You are, because you're a man, and I am too, because I'm a man. We're inherently misogynist.
That's incorrect.
No, okay, cool. So tell me this.
Before we pivot to that,
I'm not pivoting. I'm making the correlation because for some reason you think it's a one-for-one sum. I'm trying to explain to you that there's a such thing called intersectionality, and you don't understand multiple layers, just like either Destiny doesn't understand or he is blatantly disregarding it, which I think it's the latter. But understanding that there are multiple facets, and the fact is that if you are not a part of said group, you will have inherent biases towards said group. Again, if you are able-bodied, you are inherently ableist. And it doesn't have to be as something as you know, as rough as you saying the R slur like your boy Destiny. It could be just you actually not being considerate of disabled people in your everyday actions, or you could do something unintentionally that puts you in that category. So there's a difference between being active and passive.
Unconscious actions don't equal misogyny.
It still is connected. Okay, cool. All right, cool. Question for you, Richie. Question for you, Richie.
Wait, hold
on. So wait. No, because you said unconscious actions don't actually apply to misogyny. Richie, question for you.
Equal misogyny.
Yeah, cool. Question. Hey, let's say, Richie, approximately, how old are you?
28.
28. Cool. You're a young man. Richie, I'm sure you've been to like a club, a bar, a lounge, something like that, right?
Oh, I'm in my rounds. Trust me.
All right. Cool. Have you ever went out with some buddies and like one of your friends in your friend group saw a girl and she was like, oh, and they were like, he was like, all right, I'm gonna get her. And you guys are like, all right, cool. And he goes over and she's like, not really interested, but he's like persistent or like really going after her. And you guys are just watching. And finally he turns down. Finally, she turns him down like for the fourth or fifth time. And he walks back over to your friend group. Have you been in a situation similar to that?
Okay, so I don't hang around with like men that are predators, but I mean,
who said anything about being predators?
I mean, pursuing a woman over and over and over, not leaving her.
No. Again, I said that he was being persistent as far as trying to spit his best game, give her best lines, and then finally she said, "Oh, you know, I'm not really interested right now. Thank you. You're kind. I don't really know. I'm just here to hang out." And he's like, "Well, you know, cool. Well, maybe, you know, we can come back later and maybe I can buy you a drink." "Well, you know, I'm hanging out with my friends and I don't, well, you know, I got my friends over here. We could all hang out." Something like that.
Yeah, I've been there. Yep.
Okay, cool. What did you do?
What did I do?
Yep.
Well, in the scenario where this was happening, I let it be.
You let it be. You let it be. Got it.
Yep.
Hey, that's misogyny. That's misogyny because if you are not actively trying to be a part of the solution, then you are part of the problem. In that situation, if your friend is overly pursuing someone who is obviously showing that they are not interested, then it is your responsibility. It is my responsibility as a man. It's your responsibility as a man to go to that friend and say, hey, time for you to back off. You don't understand that because you are a man and you don't know. You are so unwilling to put yourself in the, and you are so unwilling to put yourself in the shoes of a woman that you don't even understand how that makes them feel.
Wait, hold up. Wait.
You already said it, bud.
I just told you that I don't hang around predators.
Yeah, I hear you. And again, there is what I told you is they're persistently pursuing her. He's not being disrespectful. He's not grabbing her. He's not touching her. He's just every single time she kind of deflects, he tries to roll with her, and he tries it 3 or 4 times in different ways.
Okay. Listen, if someone is trying to talk to somebody, and if I sense for a moment they're harassing them, I always step in. I do. Do you do the same thing?
Sure. Every single time. You know what the difference is between you and I?
You don't go to the club.
Well, no, I used to, right? I mean, let's not get it twisted. I have not always understood my privilege, right? And that's what this all boils down to, privilege. But I've not always understood my privilege, and I was a frat boy, right? I mean, I crossed my fraternity as a sophomore in college, and I have always enjoyed myself as far as my social life. So I understand how those things happen. And what I'm saying is, if you don't acknowledge your privilege, then there is no way then you can actually start to unpack any of this stuff. Richie, if you are up here and you are a white man in America and you are unable to actually acknowledge that you benefit from the social construct that America was built on, then you don't have a foot in this conversation. You don't understand racism. You don't understand misogyny, sexism. You don't understand ableism. You don't get any of that. And you are ill-equipped for this conversation, my friend.
I understand the premise of the argument. It doesn't make sense, though.
Yeah, if you understand the premise and you're not actively working to correct yourself, then again, you are a part of the problem.
Santana, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
How does one address said shadow self?
Said shadow self. Can you define shadow self? What are you referring to?
Yeah, sure. So the whole idea here is that I have this shadow self. Okay, it's a version of me deep down, pushed down really deep, that I'm holding this inherent racism. How do I address face to face this shadow self, and then teach me how I would then begin to fight this shadow self and unpack this hidden racism that I'm not aware of, and how do I fight it and unpack it?
Yeah, well, I mean, first and foremost, but I'm not going to be the one that teaches you that, right? I mean, like, literally, there are professionals.
There's a problem. You're telling me I have a problem.
Yeah.
Not giving me a solution. And let me guess, I'm supposed to figure it out, correct?
Sure. No. So what you do is when you identify that there's a problem, then you do the labor yourself, friend. So once I realized that I was a misogynist, I started to do the work myself. And by doing the work myself, I started to go to women and have more conversations around their lived experiences and try to understand them and the things that they go through. And then after that, I started to place myself in spaces where I could learn from women, not being someone that's actively participating, but sitting back, listening and learning from those situations. And then I started to look for studies, research, reading, right? I learned about the pink tax. I learned about certain issues when it comes to medical ABs, like all of these things that face women that men, not only do we not have to worry about those things, we don't have to face those things. So I put myself in multiple positions where I could start to learn more, and which, fun fact, I am nowhere near being done learning. Like, I have a lot more to learn. That's the interesting part about all this, bud. Once you actually identify that you have these inherent biases, you have these things inside of you that you need to actually unpack, you need to start teaching yourself, you need to start learning, you need to actually have some type of vigor to be better, and then you have to understand that you'll never be done. There'll never be a point where you're done.
And I understand what you're doing, and I'm okay with that. And I mean, it's good what you're doing, but Listen, I'm trying to tell you, whoever told you that you're a misogynist, you're not a misogynist. That's called objectifying a woman. Objectifying a woman it happens with all men. Yes, I agree. That's not misogyny. Misogyny is the prejudice or hatred of women.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's do this.
How do you have inherited hatred of women? Explain to me.
So again, no one said inherent hatred. See
It's
that's
inherent
the
misogyny.
no. See, that's the thing, right? That's the thing. You guys hear racism, you hear misogyny, you hear ableism, and you think hatred, right? The actual form of hatred is when you start to weaponize those things against those people. I never said that you weaponize against women. That's not what I'm saying.
You didn't. You said I was inherently, though. You said as being a man,
because you are a man that benefits from a system that benefits men. Literally.
Wait. Yes. In the 1940s, males oppressed females. We've moved past that.
How?
Are you kidding me? Women can vote.
How have we moved past oppressing women? See, there's the problem.
Sure.
What did you just say? Hold on. You said males oppress females. That's what you just said, right?
Correct. Yeah.
That's what you just said. Cool. Female what? Female cow, female donkey, female fish, female giraffe. What are we talking about? Female what?
Female humans.
So a female human is a what?
Women.
Exactly. It's those type of things that you don't even know that you're doing. That's what I'm talking about. If you don't even realize that you're calling a woman, that's the point. It can be something super small and simple, or something very large.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I only use the word females because if I use the word woman, you could just say that anyone's a woman. So I have to say females, males.
Well, I mean, like okay. Like we can get into the whole conversation about what is a woman and all this other stuff. Like I'm not going down that path because a woman is a woman. So
I don't want to either. I'm only saying that I use the word males oppress females just to make a clarifying statement that biological males oppressed females in the 40s and the 30s. It wasn't women and men because that's why I'm making the statement. Now,
so you don't think that men are oppressing women today?
It can happen at micro levels, but not at a macro level.
Sure. Okay, cool. Can any woman in any state in the United States of America receive a AB if she wanted?
Listen to me. Kamala Harris was almost president.
That's I don't want to hear that. Answer the question. There's no need for you to pivot, Richie. I asked you a direct question. Now answer the question. Can any woman in any states in the United States of America go get an AB if she wants or needs one? Yes or no?
Depends on the state. Not every state.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's my point. Like that's a form of oppression. Not only is it a form of oppression, but literally women are losing their lives because they can't get access to medical help. We understand that AB is medical help. It's a medical procedure, but they don't have access to it because men specifically have championed the initiative.
Problem. Well, that's
sure.
The problem.
What's the problem?
I agree with you. Yes, I agree with you. And I disagree with women not being able to get ABs. Now, the issue with this is that it isn't just men oppressing them. It's actually a majority women. A lot of women actually disagree with it as well. So yes, I mean there's some oppression there. Yes, there is, but it isn't being done by specifically males.
So what's the patriarch?
The patriarch in regards to what?
The patriarchal system here within the United States.
Yeah, it's a patriarchal system, basically, where the argument is that males are the hierarchy here.
No. Be specific because you said men, but be specific because it's not all men. It's not all men. I mean, yeah, it is all men, but not in this situation, not in this question. It's not all men. Who is the patriarchal system set up to benefit within the United States of America?
I want to. Can you Google and just see before I do that who won the Panthers versus Oilers game? I have a parlay on that 4-leg parlay. Hold on, just
go ahead. Go ahead and answer the question. I'll look it up for you.
Yeah. So, if I understood correctly, the patriarchy is essentially Is it basically
They're still going in overtime, tied 4-4.
It's still tied. It's still tied for 4. Shit, I got
7 minutes left in overtime.
I got a $50 parlay to win 600 if I hit that. All
yeah,
right,
I hear you. It's interesting that your mind shifted though in the middle of this conversation.
Oh, I just thought of it. Thought of it as okay. Anyway, the hierarchy, the patriarchy is essentially, if I understood correctly, again, I thought it was males at the very top. I guess it could be males and females.
No.
Okay, can you explain to me then?
The patriarch is a system that is set up with white men at the top. It is a system that benefits white men at the top, and it is a downward trickle of intersectionality where white women come in second behind white men, and so on downwards. So understanding the patriarch and why you say, oh, women actually voted with these men. Yes, white women will vote with these white men. We see that in this past election because they want access to not only the top of the patriarch, but to be able to preserve said access to power. I mean, when you talk about the lawmakers within the federal government, the majority of people, as far as congressmen, House, Senate, hell, White House, they are men. And more than just being men, they are white men. They are literally the people within power in our country that are governing and passing legislation, the exact legislation that says women can't get access to ABs.
Okay. No, I see the point you're saying with that. Okay. So yeah, I guess then I'd have to say that given that statistic there, that obviously that would be an example of yes, oppression from males or men to women. Yeah. I mean, sure. I guess I can agree with you to an extent that there is still clearly, obviously, some examples of oppression towards women from men. Wait, what were we talking about that because of? I forgot.
We were making the connection as far as inherent misogyny, and more so it was a bigger picture as far as inherent racism. Listen, I'm going to keep it really simple with you, Richie, because I feel like you missed the point. I don't know if Destiny missed I don't feel like Destiny missed the point. I feel like Destiny played willfully ignorant in multiple things because he wouldn't answer multiple questions that I had. To make it super simple, to call yourself an accomplice for any marginalized group, which we have a responsibility, Richie, you have a responsibility, I have a responsibility. In order to make yourself an accomplice to any marginalized group, there's a few things that you have to do. First and foremost, you have to use your privilege to protect them. And if you are sitting here and saying as a white man, you don't think you have privilege, then you are so far from being able to have this conversation. That's why I'm trying to make sure that you understand this.
I do have privilege.
That's all that I'm saying, Richie.
Yes, no. It is a clear, obvious. If someone denies that being white in America doesn't equal you having more privilege, then you're just an idiot.
And Richie, that's what I'm saying. If you are someone that can acknowledge that you have privilege based off of certain things, whether it be that you're a man, whether it be that you're white, whether it be that you're able-bodied, and not only can you admit and address that, you are actively working to use your privilege to benefit marginalized groups while uplifting those voices of those marginalized groups and not censoring yourself, then you can be a part of any movement. There's no way that a white person in America will ever be able to say that they're not racist, because racism is a part of the fabric of the United States of America, and the system benefits white people. But that does not mean that you can't be an accomplice. And Destiny was being willfully ignorant to that point, because again, I'm not saying that, oh, there's some quote unquote purity test where there has to be 0% of racism. What I'm saying is you cannot have someone who is actively racist a part of a movement. There's no level of active racism that can be accepted in a part of a movement.
Okay, so when you say deconstructing you're deconstructing the racism, you're essentially saying recognizing that you as being a white perfect person do have privilege in America.
That's the start, yes. But then also, unpacking and then doing those things that actually makes you an accomplice to those groups.
Okay, I mean, yeah, that's fine. Because like the thing is, like people that disagree with that are just kind of like idiots, in my opinion. Because you can literally run the numbers, you can look at the statistics, you can see that people of color obviously they go to prison for petty theft for the same charges that YT people do. I mean, it's across the board. You can literally see that there is privilege
All
in
I'm
there.
saying, like
Okay.
literally, that's all I'm saying. And again, fun fact: the fact that you were able to speak to the statistics as far as the difference between black people and white people being sentenced for the same crimes, right? That's something that is a part of what benefits you, and yes, that's part of your inherent racism. But you like admitting that and actually acknowledging that that's part of your deconstruction. Like that's what I'm talking about, Richie. Like that was my whole point.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I guess. Okay, so I see what you're saying. Um, I guess it's like when you use that word racism, it's like it kind of like
It
it's like a
makes
gut
people feel
punch.
uncomfortable. So listen, this is the thing, Richie, and I'm going to be honest with you. The reason why so many people push back on this is not because I said something wrong or not because when people say this, it's something wrong. It's something that makes people feel uncomfortable because everyone wants to think I'm not a racist, I'm not a sexist, I'm not misogynist, I'm not ableist. And until you can actually take a step back and realize that your privilege gives you access to those things, whether you use that or not, you still have access to it. And then understanding that just because you don't actively take advantage of it doesn't mean that other people don't. Like
I
it's
got you.
all a part of intersectionality, and even more than that, it's all a part of actually being just a better person, and that's it. You just
All
got to
right.
like it's uncomfortable. And like the first time, you know who was one of the first people that called me out on being the misogynist?
Who's that?
My at the time girlfriend, now wife.
Oh, okay.
You
No.
do you know how like uncomfortable that made me feel?
Mm,
And not only that, right? I grew up, I have four older sisters, and I was raised by my mother. And for me to hear that from my, girlfriend at the time, now my wife, and she wasn't saying that in a malicious way. She wasn't saying that in a hateful way. She was saying that in a way of like, hey, this is something you need to work on. And
right.
and that's the point that I'm trying to get across to people.
Yeah. No, for sure. I hear you, man. Okay. Well, shit, Santana, I appreciate you having this conversation with me. I guess you opened my eyes a little bit, man. So
Yeah,
thank you.
listen, I appreciate it. I will give you credit because again, not only did you come up here and you have this conversation, but like the fact that you're willing to listen and engage in critical thought and say, hey, maybe there's something
Right.
that's the start. That's all. That's the only. Listen, you are welcome in the movement, Richie. Like you are welcome
Appreciate
in
you, man.
because the only thing that we're asking for is for people to realize these things and say, hey, maybe there's something to that, and maybe there's something I can do. That's it.
Well, shit, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
All
appreciate
right.
you. Hope you hit your parlay.
All right. Thanks, man. You guys have a good rest of your night. All right.
Yep, you as well. Guys, see, this is one of the reasons why I said I needed to have this actual I needed to have this live. It needed to be an actual live where we talked about these things because I feel like a lot of people don't understand these things and they hear these words and the words make them feel uncomfortable because they feel targeted and it's not about targeting anyone. Tiger, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, good, good. Tiger, did you vote left, right, or are you a third party slash non-voter?
Right.
Right. All right. All right. Hey, Tiger, which point do you disagree with on the background? Do you disagree that MAG is a hate group, or do you disagree that your feelings are scary?
There's probably three. MAG is a hate group, moderates are cowards, and then the third party. We
Ooh,
can
okay.
pick either one of those,
Listen, listen,
whatever
listen.
you like.
I will let you make that choice. Where do we start?
Well, we can start. We'll start with the easiest one. Not the easiest one, but I guess maybe we'll have some agreements with the third party. I think specifically what
What?
happened in this.
No, 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 no. We don't want to talk about third party. I gave you the moderates one because technically you could be a moderate Republican as well, but we don't want to talk about third parties. We only want to talk about things that apply to you.
Oh, okay. Well, we could talk about the hate group.
Cool.
So I think that's kind of a strong word.
Hmm.
I would use it. I think MAGA is more like an American first group, like if you want to
What
call
is
like
America first?
um literally as it means, just America first, like nothing else in the world matters other than who we have here. I feel like there's so many people that are hurting, left behind, impoverished, that and they're irate when they see our tax money going to countries that don't really benefit us whatsoever.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I
No,
think
listen,
obviously
listen.
I think there's obviously some racial undertone
Mm.
in MAGA, but
Hmm.
I don't think it's to the level that people think it is.
Really?
Yeah. So specifically
Cool.
with that
Okay, hold
meme,
on, hold on. Let's slow it down for half a second. So,
sure.
um, I would agree with you that the premise, if the premise was this group was concerned about making life better for everyday Americans. Now, I know they say that, but Tyga, can you name one thing that the Trump administration has done since being back in office that has benefited the majority of Americans?
Economically, socially,
Doesn't matter, just one thing.
um, I mean, I would just point to, I think he's really taking a stance on illegal immigration.
Sure.
Economically, nothing.
Sure. Hold
Um,
on. Okay, so let's focus on that one. Illegal immigration. So, one, how successful has he been with the illegal immigration? And two, how does that benefit all Americans?
I'd give him like a
Or not
C.
all, I'm sorry, majority of Americans, because all is a really big word.
I'd give him a C. Um, from a grading scale A through F, I'd give him a C. I'd like to get him up to a B. I'm going to give him another 6 months to see how he
Sure, but
does.
that's not the question, friend. Tiger, the question is not what would you grade him. The question is what has he done? Or I'm
Well,
sorry,
yeah, you asked me.
how has his stance on illegal immigration benefited the majority of Americans?
Um, in terms of dollar for dollar, I don't think it has. Like, a lot of the
Okay.
things that MAG is about, if they're not like specific things either for your bank account, I think it's more like just like it's almost like a pride thing. Being in MAGA and having a president like Trump, you feel more prideful about being American.
Yeah,
And
you lean into your feelings, but you don't
yeah,
lean into any facts. But
yeah,
again,
I mean, you could say that.
so is your premise of it being America first faulty if they're not doing anything that would benefit the majority of Americans?
Yes, you could say that it's faulty, but like I said, I do admit some of the economic policies don't like directly help people, but I don't think that MAGA is looking for help. MAGA is more like it's like a pride thing. People
Yeah,
will put their
it's based
pride
off of
over everything.
sure, it's based off of the fact that they are willing to harm other people over their pride. They're actively harming people over their
Yes,
pride. Yeah,
but who
that's
are they
hate.
harming?
That's hate.
But
They're
who are they
harming
harming?
they're harming multiple people. They're harming undocumented immigrants. They are harming the black and brown community. They're harming women. They're harming the queer community. They're harming the economy. Like they're harming multiple people. Like the fact that MAGA actually voted for Trump and put him and his administration in power, and now we are barreling towards a recession, and now you have people who were listen, the one thing that I will always say and I stand on, I do not have the guts to serve in our military. I knew from a young age that I was not built to actually serve our military, because in order to serve our military, you have to be willing to put your life on the line. I'm not built like that. And for anyone that's willing to say, I will put for them to come and say, Santana, Tiger, I will put my life on the line for you. I don't care what gender they identify with. There's someone who I respect. And for this administration to specifically target them and say, hey, you are not welcome in our military after them willingly putting their lives on the line, like that's hateful.
So that could be construed as hateful. I'm overweight. I can't serve.
Okay.
So somebody that is mentally crazy,
That's
somebody that could have an anger problem,
whoa.
those people.
First of all, we do understand that mental issues can be addressed in multiple ways. Also, if you're trying to make the connection that whoa.
Those people.
First of all, we mentioned that transgender people have a or quote unquote have mental issues. That's not true. That's not true.
Well, I didn't say that. I didn't say that transgender people have mental issues. What I'm saying is that there's more factors contributing in their daily lives than just I guess a heterosexual soldier.
I mean, I agree, but isn't that true for everyone?
So I could
Like-
love the military, but
Like, Tiger, think about it though, right? Isn't that true for everyone? Do we not all have multiple factors in our life that if we make one wrong turn, think about it, Tiger. Have you ever had one of those days where it just feels like everything is going wrong? Like it's like an awful day, and you just like you're trying to hold it together, and then all of a sudden you're walking out of the door, and your pants pocket or your belt loop gets caught on like a door handle. Has that ever happened to you?
I don't wear a belt, but have I had a bad day? Yeah.
But yeah, what I'm trying to say is like those things happen to everyone, and we have those moments of inflection where we can either break down or we can keep going. And the simple fact of the matter is everyone has multiple layers that they have to deal with. And just by saying someone's transgender doesn't mean that their levels of everyday dealing with the BS within the country is not something that, or is something more extreme than everyone else's.
Again, I don't know if I agree with Trump on every single thing. Maybe the transgender people are completely capable of serving mentally. I don't know. And to be honest with you, I think this is very new, because obviously we've had transgender people that they've existed for hundreds of years, but it's very new.
Way more than hundreds of years.
Thousands.
If you're religious, then I mean, it's in the Bible, but whatever.
But, they just been out and serving. But anyways, the transgender thing is so microscopical. I don't.
But and you say that, but your candidate spent $290 million on transphobic ads to help win the election. He vilified less than 1% of the population in order to galvanize people who voted based off of hate.
I think it was more towards the sports, to be honest with you. I don't think his
that was
members
an excuse, friend.
I don't
because
think
before they were talking about sports, they were talking about bathrooms.
Well, it's just I don't think banning transgender from the military polls
transgender people.
Transgender people from the military. The transgender people with the sports polled really well, and I think he just kind of ran with it. So
he spent $290 million on it. It's not about running with it. They made a concerted effort to actually center this as a staple of his election bid.
Yeah, that could be true. I don't, to be honest with you, like transgender LGBTQ, they've never really been Republicans, so maybe they were put as the boogeyman. I'm not saying that that's not the case.
But so you don't get the connection though if they're specifically targeting marginalized groups, whether it's transgender people, whether it's brown people from the South, whether when they use these specific targets to drum up fear and hate in order to get votes, you don't think that's a problem?
I think you're pushing the word hate a little bit more. You could say fear, that they've been drumming up fear. And to be honest with you, Santana, I just don't think a lot of people like having people intense and up in the hotels and stuff like that. The average person, I'm not going to speak for any other community other than my own. I'm in Ohio, and I'm about an hour away from the Cats and Dogs city, and to be honest with you, I don't know if any of the cats and dogs were being consumed as food.
They weren't.
Yeah.
And that was hateful rhetoric push that was harmful to not only those Haitian people in the community, but Black people in general.
Yes. Well, see, but that's the thing. Like American Black people, everybody knows they're not going anywhere. They're here. They were brought here over.
How do you know that?
Everybody would. Black people aren't eligible to be removed.
Wait. Okay, cool. I'm gonna run through a quick thought process with you, but before I do, let me just read this off, guys. W's in the chat for Caleb. What up, Caleb? W's in the chat for Caleb over on YouTube. Also, what up, YouTube? What up, Twitch? Caleb sent $1.99 YouTube super chat to say it's all about vibes, bro. Facts don't matter. Absolutely, Caleb. Caleb, thank you so much for that YouTube super chat. Guys, Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, all of my pay links are in the link tree in the bio. Santana Speaks 24. Santana Speaks 24 is the best way to support the live. If you enjoy the information, education, entertainment, please, please, please consider donating. Everything is accepted. Anything is appreciated. If you're over on YouTube and you want to send a YouTube super chat, you can send it, and I will read your message out like Caleb. Also, guys, 2 other quick announcements. This is the main account now. This is the main account. So if you're not following this account, if you look up here at the top and it says follow, that means you're not following this account. So go ahead and hit the follow button. Make sure you're following this account. And also, since this is the main account, we got subs. We got subs, so you can actually become a subscriber. You get access to the Discord, which is amazing. You get access to a bunch of really cool new emotes. I put new emotes in the actual listing, so completely different new emotes. And last but not least, guys, you get access to 3 cool new perks. Everyone knows about the Fast Pass on Late Nights with Santana, where you get to actually join the actual conversation. You get a get to the front of the line from being a subscriber. Well, now for subscribers, you get a what's called Tag Me In, where on Sparring with Santana, if you're a subscriber, you can actually use your Tag Me In, where for 5 minutes you get to come up on the panel and you can actually debate whoever is up here. You get 5 minutes to actually debate them, and you help me debate whoever's on the panel. And also, guys, with Brunch with My Creator, which comes back next weekend, you get what's called My Question, where you get priority to actually ask your favorite creator, whoever I'm interviewing, your specific question. So if you're not a sub, go ahead and grab a sub right now and join our community. Let's do it. Tiger. So I'm going to run through a specific thought process with you, because you actually just said black people aren't going anywhere.
Correct. Black Americans.
Yeah. So this is the thing about that. Looking at me.
Yep.
Do you think that I am Ethiopian? Am I Nigerian? Am I Kenyan? Am I Black American? Am I Haitian? Like, what am I?
If your name was Santana, I would potentially guess Dominican or some kind of Hispanic.
Okay.
You're not dark enough to be straight from Africa.
Really?
I would guess like Dominican or potentially Cuban.
Yeah, no, you're wrong. I'm Black American.
Okay.
Black American, born and raised in South Carolina. So
right.
the issue with that is, with the eye test, you don't have the ability to actually identify where people are from. And this is where it gets tricky. As of right now, the Trump administration has been conducting ICE raids, right? ICE raids where they not only do they not have to show identification, they don't have to show their faces, but they also are detaining people based off of speculation, not based off of any actual facts, just based off of speculation. And even more than that, there have been people that have been United States citizens with proof and documentation that they are United States citizens, and they have continued to be detained. And even people who are here within the country illegally have been sent out of the country. So for you to say, well, Black Americans aren't going anywhere, bud, like, we're not special. We're just next. That's the thing that we understand.
Santana, I think about 0.1% have been detained incorrectly.
Where'd you get that statistic from?
Out of my head.
Yeah, no, we don't want to give numbers out of your head, but
I think
you just say you think there's a small.
I think there's a very small percent, extremely small percent of people that are detained, just like anything else. I could be pulled over. Officer thinks I've been boozing.
But shouldn't you get access to due process though?
Well, of course,
shouldn't you get the exactly? And that's the problem. Like, see, what I'm trying to.
The problem is here's the problem. Here's my problem. Then you could tell me, and I might be wrong. The problem is, I guess, MAGA, anybody, just an average person that doesn't even really care about politics. When there is a person that is here illegally, they go through the court process. They got deportation orders back from 2015. Once people start saying, "Oh my God,"
are you talking about Abrego Garcia?
No. I'm talking about anybody.
Okay, I was about to say
I'm not
because
even talking
okay,
about
that okay, that
anybody.
because that's a little
Yeah.
different. But anyway, go
So
ahead.
just anybody, from Bush, Obama, Trump, anybody that we've had, when they have a final deportation order and it's finally time to turn yourself in, you're going to go on the plane, go home. People protest. Nope, you can't do that. She's a granny. She's nice, and that's the problem we have. There are a lot of good people that just don't qualify, and a lot of people don't understand that just by being a good person does not mean that you get to stay.
You and I agree.
But
Like,
Santana,
see,
your
that's
party
the
doesn't
problem.
agree.
No, no, no. See,
Let me
that's
ask
the
you this.
problem. That's the problem. Hold on,
If
hold
I
on,
may.
hold on, because
Okay.
you made that point. The people that vote left, for the majority of the people that vote left agree with that premise, right?
I don't think
And
they
they
do.
agree. I hear you. They agree, like specifically, they don't have an issue with following the law and giving people access to due process. Now, there are some people that are more left leaning with their views, like me. Like, I don't care about borders. I think that if you are willing to put your life on the line and trek hundreds of thousands of miles or whatever the case may be to actually get away from where, listen, quick question, Tiger.
Well,
The,
if you don't mind, keep going with your thoughts. I want
no,
to
no,
know.
it's
Okay.
here.
All right.
Do you know, not necessarily percentage, but overall, if you just had to guess a majority or a percentage of people that actually move out of their home state to another state, do you think that's a high number or a low number?
Very low.
Yeah. Not only is it most people don't move out of their home state, most people don't move out of their home city.
I know that.
Right?
Yeah.
So think about this. Yeah, I'm someone who I've traveled 3,000 miles. I moved from South Carolina to Washington State. I moved 3,000 miles in a U-Haul truck by myself for 3 days. I drove 3 days, 3,000 miles across our entire country to move. And for someone making a trip like that across this country, I respect the hell out of anyone who is traveling from another country to try to make it to our country that's putting their lives on the line. So I'm someone who is like, fuck it, if they can make it here, let them in. And not only let them in, but like give them the ability to actually be here legally instead of having to actually do things that make them quote unquote subhuman, right? Like taking jobs that put them at lower wages, have to constantly be at fear for their safety, whether they're going to be deported, all these other things. Like I say, if they're willing to put their lives on the line just to get here, then give them an opportunity to be here.
Santana, the problem is the vast majority of these people that there's all kinds of different immigration. There's European, they fly in the plane, they study at University of Miami. Their parents spend $400,000 on
They
they're
let their
from
visas
France.
elapse. They
So there's
start a
all
business.
different
They
kinds.
become the richest man on earth. They affect the 2024 presidential election, or they marry the president of the
Well,
United
Elon's
States
weird.
after being here on a genius visa which they didn't qualify for. Yeah, like all of that stuff happens.
So I'm specifically referring to the people that come up through Mexico. They do the 3,000. They do the 3,000 mile check. Did you know that when you are an immigrant and you go through the process and you even become a citizen, you have to swear on earth or on the Bible, whatever. I don't even know if they use the Bible anymore. That you will not ever take public assistance. It's part of the immigration oath that we've had. My buddy from Chile just got sworn in. He was on my college tennis team. He had to swear that he will never take government assistance, and half of the people end up doing it and they break their oath because the people don't have any money.
I hear you, but isn't that an issue with our country? Isn't that an issue with capitalism?
Santana, we have so many people, white, black, and brown, that have nothing.
But that's an issue. That's an issue
Yes,
with capitalism in our country. Why is the richest man on earth worth more than everybody else put together?
Let me tell you,
that doesn't make sense.
Here's some good Bernie Sanders points. The rich don't pay enough. There's too many tax loopholes. There is an oligarchy, and there needs to be massive tax reform. Again, like I'm not some like nut job that's just going to say everything that Trump says. Bernie has a lot of decent points, but he even said there's a clip from him from like 2006 saying that flooding America with poor people is not good for Americans that are poor too.
I agree.
Because it drives the
I
language.
agree.
I don't think
agree.
you do agree.
No, I'm sitting here telling you I agree. And the
Okay,
reason
then,
though
but-
I
okay.
agree, the reason why I agree is because Americans shouldn't be quote unquote poor. We live in the richest country on earth.
I know.
Why do we have mass houselessness? People
Ask the
we have
donors.
the point that I'm trying to make is we have enough houses to homes to house everyone. There should be we shouldn't have a epidemic when it comes to people being unhoused. We shouldn't have an issue with people not being able to actually have a decent living to be able to access food, but we do because of the capitalistic society that we live in that prioritize the people at the top and continue to try to push down on the people at the bottom and have predatory systems that constantly take advantage of them. That's why they want to abolish the Department of Education. That's why they want to institute different practices that will be more predatory towards student loan. Like they want to institute all of these things that will continue to push the people towards the bottom down and keep them down instead of lifting those people up.
Santana, I went to public school. I think I
I did
paid
too.
like I think I paid like $2,000 a semester. There's Pell Grants. I mean, we're like middle class. Like
You do understand, like even the grants that you're talking about, if they do abolish the Department of Education, then those grants won't be there anymore. They won't have access to those.
well, they should be there. But
Yeah, I hear you should and will. That's two
let me
different
ask you
things.
this. Is there any personal responsibility for these people? I went to a commuter public school.
Mhm.
I would go to the local bar for my little fun. I
Mhm.
wasn't at U Miami. I
Mhm.
wasn't at San Diego State racking up $100,000 on my parents' card. So there is some personal responsibility. You can go to your local public school, university, 4-year school, and maximum maybe take out 10 grand in loans. There's people with
When did you go to school?
200,000. Was that
When did you go to school?
2000? I graduated in 2019, 26.
2019. Okay, cool. What did you get your degree in?
Political science. and
Political
Spanish.
science. Awesome. All right. So understanding that
I haven't
one,
used it, by the way.
I'm sorry.
I haven't used it at all.
Listen, I have multiple degrees, and I have never used my degrees until I got my second MBA. Like,
Oh, great.
yeah. But so see, this is the thing, right? Not everyone. I'm gonna be transparent with you, because this is something I've never really talked about online, and I'll talk about it, right? My undergrad degree was paid for via scholarships, right? I so happened to actually be blessed enough to get on multiple academic scholarships that was tied to me actually working in conjunction with the school, but I also had to still work because it just covered enough for me to actually be able to go to classes and stuff, right? So not
Yeah.
only was I a full-time student, but I worked full-time for like three years while in college. And the only reason I got my first MBA is because my the company that I was working for after I got out of college offered a program where not only did they allow you to earn your MBA, but they literally had a the one of the colleges set up within our building, so I could get off of work or even get off for a couple of hours and go to class in the same building and then go back to work. And then when I got my second MBA, it was again because of the company that I work for paid for my degree. So I am someone who hasn't been affected by like student loan. With that being said, there's no way that I would have been able to do that if I would have had to lean on just grants and multiple things like that, because one, college is super expensive. Two, they make it really hard to be able to get access to grants and scholarships. They make it more so that you take out loans versus grants and scholarships,
That's true.
and it's predatory, and that's the point. It
Well, you
shouldn't
can't
be
be an
predatory.
idiot, and you obviously weren't. You look like a smart. You did it the right way.
But
See,
it's
you know,
not about doing it the right way. Everyone should have that type of access. Everyone should have that type of access
I
to
think
higher
that-
learning.
I think that they do.
They don't. They don't.
Well, that I might be wrong on that. That I think that a lot of people just don't know. Maybe they don't know any better. Maybe the high school guidance counselors suck. And
Yeah,
they don't-
mine
and
did too.
And they don't tell them, because when they send you the loan, they say, "Do you want the Pell Grant or federalized, or there's like two kinds of loans.
But not everyone qualifies for that. There's multiple factors that you have to actually hit in order to be able to qualify for those things.
That's true. I mean, again, that's true. But here's okay. Let me modify what I said. I think anybody that's hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, that's just unacceptable for themselves. They played themselves.
But what about people that we need to actually go into hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, like doctors?
Like you off.
Yeah, but still, so you said anyone that's in hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, they played themselves. Doctors go into hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, and also it takes a long time for them to be able to pay that off.
Let me rephrase it again. Anybody with a liberal arts degree like mine that spent $100,000 on it, that's just insane. If you're a doctor and you know you're going to make $200K and up, and you got a couple $100,000, that makes sense. But I know people that went to the party school for $150,000, and all they did was drink, and now they're paying off their debt, and it's going to take them 67 years. I mean, there's a financial disaster, and we also live in a materialistic society where you got to have the.
But that's what I've been saying the whole time. We live in a capitalistic society where it's all about the dollar, and they don't take care of the people. But that's the problem.
Santana, even in the socialist communist countries, everybody wants that Fendi bag. Everybody wants that chain. It's human nature. You got to tell yourself, I don't need the Fendi bag.
I hear you. Hold on one second. Hold on one second. Let me read these off. W's in the chat for Shannon. Shannon sent a $3 donation saying, thanks for what you do. Shannon, thank you so much for that $3 donation. You are absolutely too kind. W's in the chat for Dan. Dan sent a $5 donation saying, appreciate the message you share with Brown Cow. Absolutely. Thank you so much for that $5 donation. And also W's in the chat for Sir Bobbles. What up, Sir Bobbles, who sent a $1.99 YouTube super chat to say, too bad civics isn't taught anymore. Need it back. You're absolutely right about that, Sir Bobbles. Guys, Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, all the pay links are in the link tree in the bio. Santana Speaks 24. Santana Speaks 24 is the best way to support the live. If you enjoy the information, education, entertainment, please consider donating. Everything is accepted. Anything is appreciated. If you're over on the YouTubes, you can actually send a YouTube super chat, and I will read that message off. Guys, please remember, this is the main account now. If you're watching this and if you see follow up here at the top, follow that. Follow the main account. We are now locked in. This is the main account, so make sure you hit that follow button. Also, we do have subscriptions on this account now. You get access to the Discord, which is amazing. We got a bunch of really cool emotes, but more than that, you get access to 3 really cool things: a fast pass to join Late Nights with Santana, Tag Me In, where you get 5 minutes to come up here on Sparring, and you can actually help me spar with anyone on the panel, and my question, where you get prioritization as far as your question when it comes to Brunch with My Creator. So if you're not a sub, you used to be a sub, go ahead and grab a sub. With that being said, Hawk, talk to the man.
Well, the last thing he said was funny to me, because he's talking about these other countries or whatever where everybody wants a Fendi bag. Or what. Do you realize, though, in those countries, education is free?
Yes.
So, and just as an aside, can I ask how old you are?
26.
Oh, okay. That answers a lot of questions. Do you realize there was a time in this country, in my life,
I was going
where
there.
College was free?
I was going there.
No, I don't.
Yeah, it used to be free.
Up until Reagan, college was free.
Until they told us this stuff had to trickle, and nothing trickled.
As a matter of fact,
Reagan sucked anyway.
I don't usually get this deep into the history of it, but I used to teach this to my students. As a matter of fact, pretty much all the state colleges were funded by the government. They were known as land grant colleges. And they did that so they could educate the people on it, primarily agriculture, if you can believe that, but educate the people on the things that we needed coming out of the Industrial Revolution, right? So colleges were free because they were funded by the government because they wanted the population to be educated.
Yes.
So where you're talking about, like the statement that you made a few minutes ago, where you said they played themselves, I hate to break this to you, but the system played them. Because
the system played us all, Hawk.
Yeah, the system is set up against the student. I taught high school for 15 years. You also said something earlier about them not knowing any better. They're children. Of course they don't know any better. And the system is set up to take advantage of them. Say that again?
I said their mama needs to tell
them. But wait. But Tiger, what if they don't have an actual perspective? So fun fact, you remember how I told you that, like, Yeah, you
No,
remember
but
how I
that
told you
real
that
quick, Santana, real quick. I gotta address that.
go
First
ahead.
of all, once you go to college, I don't care if you're 17. The college addresses you as an adult. They consider you an adult. They don't listen to your parents.
Yep.
No. What I said is that when it's time to take the loan out, and if your mama isn't telling you don't do this, a lot of kids fall in the trap. That's what I'm
Sure.
saying.
Okay, so run down this thought process with me. What if their mama or parents don't have that actual history or knowledge or background of, filling out FAFSAs or doing anything
Well,
along
that's
those
a
lines?
great question.
Hmm.
And that's a huge problem in a lot of schools. Um, a lot of the kids they're the first generation college kids, so they have
Hmm.
no idea what the hell they're doing.
Hmm.
And then they ask the high school guidance counselor who doesn't give a shit,
Hmm.
and then they get screwed over. So that happens. Of course it does.
Exactly. So
I'm not saying it
I
doesn't.
was one of those people, right? I went to, again, I normally don't get this personal, but I will, right? I was someone who wasn't really interested in school, didn't necessarily think about school, never really thought about college. I was kind of a C student because I didn't really try, right? I
Yeah.
had a high school girlfriend, and she was a straight A student, and she told me that she was going to the University of South Carolina. And I was like, oh, well, I can't have my girlfriend leave me. And so I went to the guidance counselor and I was like, hey, what do I need to do in order to be able to go to the University of South Carolina like her? And they looked at my transcript and it was like, yeah, I mean, you would have to make straight A's for the next 2 years in order to even come close to being able to have the GPA to get into the University of South Carolina. And I did it for 2 straight years, straight A's. And not only did I do that, I was like, well, hey, what else do I have to do? And I had never heard of the SAT. I had never heard of the ACT. And my guidance counselor didn't even tell me about that. I had to have a friend say, hey, when are you taking the SAT? And I was like, the what? And so then I had to do my own research to find out what the SAT was, what the ACT was, and I took both of them. And then not only did I take both of them, I had to fill out my own FAFSA form and then tell my mom what part she needed to understand and sign because she didn't have any information about FAFSA or being able to get grants, scholarships, loans, any of that. I had to do all of that by myself because, like you said, the guidance counselor sucked. I am the first person in my family to actually graduate from college. And I didn't have anyone in my family that I could lean on for these types of things. And I say all that to say that I should not be an anomaly. I should be the standard. There should be more ways for people to get access to not only be able to get into higher education, but we should make easier pathways for higher education, easier pathways for citizenship, easier pathways to get people out of poverty. Like this country has the ability to do all of it, and we don't because of capitalism.
Yes, but Santana, what else are you proposing? When you say
Yeah.
because of capitalism, what are you proposing?
Yeah, I
What would you like to
propose that
see?
what I would like to see, one, I would like to see higher wages. I would like to see corporations being taxed more. I would like
Great.
to see tax loopholes being closed. I would like to see free college, free higher learning, free college education, free healthcare system. I would like to see free legalized leafy green across the country. I would like to see a lot of stuff free because we can do it, and we can do it if
Free,
we just start
free
cutting our
leafy green.
military budget.
Well, I mean, 90% of the stuff you just said
I
sounds
didn't,
great,
and
but
I didn't mean free leafy green, but like access to it, where it's
yeah.
legal across the board. That's what I meant.
Well,
I mean, if
90%
somebody wants to give it away free, then
90% of the stuff you just said sounds great, but again, it's see the thing that frustrates me is a lot of people, not saying you, a
Mhm.
lot of people are acting like this, just like, oh yeah, like Trump's doing this. Man, this has been a Democrat Republican thing ever since I've been born.
I agree.
I mean, so
But
this isn't like a MAGA white supremacist thing. I mean, them donors don't want the higher wages
Because
because
actually,
everybody.
I want to push back on that. I want to push back on that because the Biden administration was trying to help the students pay off their student loans,
Yep.
and the Trump administration came in and said, "Bump that, throw it all out,
Yep.
make them pay."
Restarted
Right.
student loans.
So this is a Democrat Republican thing. And not to be funny, if you go back to the 70s, starting around the Nixon administration, but between Nixon and Reagan for sure, whatever, the Republican Party has stated out loud, and it's recorded, so you can look it up or whatever, that they do not want an educated electorate. And from
Why
that
is that?
time until now, they have been making it harder and more difficult to get a higher education because they
Tiger,
don't want marginalized communities to have an education. They don't
well,
want women to have an
you,
education.
Hawk, you gave him the answer. Dang it.
I'm sorry.
It's all good. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
I see that's the okay. Well, Hawk, you're saying that there's a video I can go on YouTube and watch him saying, I don't want people to have an education."
Sure. If while we're talking, I'll try to remember the name. But he might have been Reagan's chief of staff. But this was actually said out loud. This was around the
Well,
time
whoever
when they
said that's
invented
an
the
idiot
concept of the
because
dog. No, they're not, because they've done it.
well,
You're missing the point. He wasn't saying this in some colloquial conversation with some of his boys. It was a big meeting or whatever, and he was telling them what they wanted. This is the Republican Party's mindset on how they move forward.
also, someone just put this in the chat as well. Like the policy that was instituted of No Child Left Behind, like that was another form of pushing people through the education system without addressing their actual
yeah, that was
needs.
horrible.
And then not only it was that, it was to push them out so they can get more workers into the workforce. Like it's all connected.
Well, George Bush
Exactly.
hates teachers. That's
Yeah,
more than
and-
it was. That's more that it was more about
But
them screwing
but
teachers
what he
over.
did then was make the teacher's job harder.
Yeah,
And
I
he
don't like
cheated
George
the
Bush.
but he cheated the students because all they did was push them through the system, whether they had learned the information or not. They just promoted them anyway and got them out of school.
Yeah, I know that. That's true. I mean,
So-
yeah, I think George Bush is terrible.
Yeah.
I
Listen,
don't like George Bush at all.
Tiger, I'll say this because I feel like you and I we aren't that far apart. Like you're saying certain things, but I guess it all goes back to what I said before because I legitimately mean this when I say this. The group that you voted for, I'm not saying you are a hateful person because you and I have been up here talking for a while and I don't get hateful from you. I don't think that's what you're rooted in, and you seem like a genuine person. I appreciate
Yeah.
you and I appreciate the
Well,
conversation, but the people at the top of this group weaponize hate and leaned into those people who don't necessarily understand the nuances like yourself, and they weaponize that hate and fear in those people in order to radicalize them and actually get them out to vote. That's why you have certain people who are so willing and open to, you have white nationalists out protesting and openly aligning with the MAGA movement. You have people like Nick Fuentes, who is a known Schnazi, aligning himself with the Republican or with the MAGA movement. You have like people like Andrew Tate, who is a Schmex trafficker, aligning himself with the MAGA movement.
Well, they could align themselves all they want. That doesn't mean that doesn't mean that even Trump himself shares all the views.
Sure,
of those people.
but if Trump didn't share or it didn't at least
Some of them,
want
yeah.
them apart, if Trump didn't want that a part of his movement, then why would he have Nick Fuentes at Mar-a-Lago to have dinner?
Now, let me respond.
Why would he actually put pressure to get the Tate brothers back into the U.S. and Barron have a direct relationship with Andrew Tate?
So there's two different things. One, again, I don't think he even knows who the hell Nick Fuentes is. I think someone invited him that Trump had invited. Again, Trump's almost 80 years old. I don't think he needs his people. He does know who the Tate brothers are, probably because his son said, "Hey, these are like cool alpha males, blah, blah, blah. They're good for your brand. Bring them in," or who the hell knows. But I don't think Trump has any idea who Nick Fuentes is. He's like a 22-year-old dweeb who, he doesn't know who the hell he is. He does know who the Tates are, but I think they're back in Romania facing their charges anyways. So
I don't think they got. I don't think
they're
they are.
gone.
Really? I
Yeah,
have to
they're
look
not
that
here
up.
anymore.
Last thing I know that they were still here even after they got those charges from the UK. But my point is, when you talk about Donald Trump, even if you want to bring the tentacles in closer, you have people like Stephen Miller who
Yeah.
are in his proximity, right? People that work with him every day. You have people like Steve Bannon, right? You have people like you have people like Laura Loomer, right? Like openly racist, sexist, like hateful people who lean into it.
Here's the thing. I'm sure some of those people are, but like, I feel like people could talk about race relations and stuff like that. I don't think they're as like extreme as they used to be. I feel like now, obviously
majority of black
Yeah, I
people
know that.
still live in the South.
Yeah, I know that. Well, that's when people always talk about like the South would be like, oh yeah, they're all white, but like you look at those numbers, it's almost like 50-50. Well, not 50-50, but 40% in some of those states. But anyways, I don't think I don't think like Steve Bannon and those people are. I don't think black people are even brought up. I think it's more about like migrants from South America and stuff like that. I feel like black people have, they're kind of forgotten in some of these arguments, and that's one of the things. I'm not going to talk for black people,
Please
but
don't.
I feel like boosting them up should be one of our priorities instead of bringing people for them to compete with.
Why not do both? Like
that's not how it works.
But no, we're not competing with immigrants. We're not competing with undocumented immigrants. Black people are not competing with undocumented immigrants. You do understand that black women are the most educated group in America today, and not only the educated group, but the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs. Black people are not competing with undocumented immigrants. Literally, even the quote unquote lower class, they're not competing with undocumented immigrants. But more than that, if we invested money into our educational system, where we also invested money into math and STEM programs, into the sciences, so we can take advantage of this AI boom that's coming, then we can actually educate people that will be able to capitalize on that. We'll pull them away from those lower level jobs, and those immigrants that are coming into the country can actually take advantage of those lower level jobs. We can do it.
Let me just ask you this. I've seen, maybe they're completely made up, over the past couple of years, I turn on the TV, all different channels. I truly like to watch just to get the different viewpoints. I've seen, like even in Chicago or New York, where they're closing
Chicago and New York.
They're closing, well, Detroit too. They're closing the YMCA's for these migrants, so the black kids can't play basketball after school.
That's not true.
They're closing these places down.
That's not true.
Maybe I'm wrong then, but that's just what I think. Here's what I think. I'm just going to be very blunt. I think that a lot of these people, these NGOs and bad dudes, are pushing all these people over the border and having a lot of cheap labor to drive down the wages for people, and it plungers all Americans into poverty.
Yeah,
we all have
that's not true.
It's not just NGOs; it's corporate America, period. Because
corporate
it's
America
a capitalist
too,
society.
Yeah.
But let me ask you a couple of questions, please.
Sure.
Are you aware of the phrase dog whistle?
Yes, if you ask me what it exactly means, I don't have a good definition.
Okay, well, I'm going to explain it. And are you aware of DEIA and what it is?
No.
Okay. So those two things completely take away everything that you just said for the last 5 minutes, because you were talking about they don't talk about black people out loud and using specific phrases. Maybe they don't, but through dog whistles, they do. Right. The guy I told you before that was saying that the Republican Party didn't want an educated electorate, during that part of that speech or whatever, he was telling them, we can't say the N word anymore, but if we say this and this, it means the same thing.
Yep.
Right. And basically what he was telling them is, at the end result of all of this is we win more than they do.
Yep.
Right. Yep. So we've had dog whistles since then. So they might not specifically attack out loud, although, not to be funny, since this administration, not this one, but his first administration, they're starting to say stuff out loud.
They say the quiet part out loud. That's why, Tiger, I said MAGA's a hate group. But listen, Tiger, I'm gonna go ahead and go ahead and let you go. Legitimately, I appreciate you coming up here, because like and this is what makes me mad, Tiger. You and I aren't that far on certain things, right? And I can appreciate that, but it seems like you're missing the point on other things.
No, I mean, it's not that I'm missing the point. I think we just don't agree on all the specific things. Yeah. I feel like there's just some fundamental differences with just our viewpoints, but that doesn't mean that I didn't learn from you, or I could definitely take all the things you said into account. Well, and I do want, Hawk, I do want to watch that video. I'm going to go on YouTube and find that about him saying that, because if he said that, then that's crazy.
Yeah. Something
like that.
What I'll say as well is come back at some point. We got some more sparring to do. I just want to swap you out because there's a lot more people here, but we got more. We left meat on this bone, so you're welcome back.
Okay.
All right, have a good one. Hawk. It has to just be like that sometimes. Guys, let's keep tapping the screen. Likes have not moved. They have not moved at all. Let's go ahead and get the likes up to 100,000 likes. Let's get the shares up to 250 shares. Also, just a reminder, this is the main account, so make sure that you are actually following this account. If you look up here at the top and it does not say, if it says follow, you're not following this account. Make sure that you are following this account. This is the main account now. Let's knock out the daily gift goal, which is the High Bears. I'm going to go ahead and pin that. We have subs on this account now. And last but not least, Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, all the pay links are in the link tree in the bio. Santana Speaks 24. Santana Speaks 24 is the best way to support the live. If you enjoy the information, education, entertainment, please, please, please consider donating. Everything is accepted. Anything's appreciated. I'm going to get more people up here. And if you disagree with anything on the background, if you disagree with anything on the background, request up. If for some reason you don't think moderates are cowards, get in the box. If you don't think that MAG is a hate group, get in the box. If you don't think the left doesn't listen, get in the box. If you think that MAGA, your feelings aren't scary, get in the box. And if you a third party slash non-voter, you're just a sucker. Get in the box. Hawk, I appreciate you coming up with me.
I don't need to stay up. He was just talking crazy about education.
I know. I saw you in the chat. I said, let me go ahead and get you up here. I appreciate you.
No sweat, man.
Have a good one. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get more people up. We got people in the box. Let's go ahead and get this person in who has been spamming for days wanting to get in the box. Steven.
Yes, sir. How are you?
Good, Steven. Steven, did you vote left? Did you vote right? Third party non-voter? Would you vote?
I voted for Miss Harris.
Okay. All right. So, Steven, what do you disagree with on the background?
So I'd say I disagree with the first and the third one.
Okay.
The first one mostly based on messaging.
What do you mean? Explain that.
So I think we're both on the left, right? I'd say I consider myself a liberal, so probably not as far left as you and probably a lot of the viewers. But I think it's really, frankly, unproductive if we're going to like call moderates and people that could potentially vote with us, if we're going to call them cowards. Why? Because we need their votes to win and enact actual change.
Do you think that we need the quote unquote moderates votes more than we need the votes of, or to actually do progressive things that would make people want to vote for us no matter how quote unquote moderate they are? I.e., if we were able to institute universal health care and tap into a base of non-voters, which is about 10 to 20 million, and put the position where people can have access to health care, you think that's more important, or is it more important to kowtow to people who are so close to being right-leaning that they're just over the aisle, but at any time they could vote for a Republican?
So I think that's a good question. I think it's begging the question a little bit. I just think when it comes to non-voters and people that don't vote, I think that they're much more likely to be either like left-leaning or right-leaning than to be like far left or far right. So
I disagree with that. I think that the people that don't vote, they don't vote for a specific reason. And mainly they either think that their vote doesn't count or they don't see a benefit in voting. And if you give them a reason to vote, then they'll get off their couch and vote.
I can agree with that, but shouldn't we also, like, we can also do two things at one time. Shouldn't we also try and get non-voters to vote? I don't know. I understand your claim, but I don't think you could provide evidence to support like, oh, this non-voter, if you just tell them like, oh yeah, we can raise wages and build a bunch of unions and make Medicare free for everyone, which that depends, the popularity on that depends how you ask the question, by the way. But like, you can't, like, we can do that, but we can also at the same time be like, hey, moderates, like Trump is really bad. We can say, oh, well, we actually want to lower prices at the grocery store. And we want to make sure that your Medicaid covers all your expenses. And we want to keep insulin capped at $35 a month. Can't we do those things without like tearing down each other on the left, whether you're a moderate that likes Biden or you're a progressive that maybe like Bernie in 2016. Can't we do both at the same time?
Yeah. So as far as actually breaking down why, I mean breaking down tearing down each other, like, don't get it twisted. I'm not here to tear down people, right? I'm not even here to tear down moderates. Yes, I know this says moderates are cowards. Yes, it's to engage people who consider to be themselves moderates, but even more than that, it's to drive the initiative that being moderate hasn't given us any type of progression that we should have within the United States. The fact of the matter is, like, this country being the actual, being in the position that we are, the richest country on earth, and not having some of these same things that other countries have had for years, including free education, including free healthcare, that speaks volumes. And the only reason that we have, or we don't have those things, is because we have opposition that keeps standing in the way, and they want to quote unquote conserve those things. But you have those moderates who are willing to actually stand beside them because they don't want to go too far or be considered too extreme. And so we can't even get basic human needs.
I agree with pretty much everything you just said. When you said that you're not trying to tear down moderates, though, I was in the live last night, and I've listened to a lot of more progressive people on TikTok, especially when we have these TikToks, right, and we have these conversations, especially around like systemic racism, which obviously is a thing, and it disproportionately affected a lot of Black Americans, specifically ones that are descendants of slaves, right? I agree with all those things, okay? I'm 26 years old. I agree with all those things. But the thing is, if you want people to vote with you on healthcare stuff and on wages, you can't keep beating them over the head with those messages and expect them to receive it and want to vote with you. And that's maybe unfair, and it's kind of like sucking up to people, and that's not very palpable. I understand. But if we want people to get on the train with us and get towards progressive goals, we have to at first make them go from moderate to liberal. People aren't going to go from undecided to like socialist. That's not going to happen, right? Yeah. If we want a more progressive society, we have to like coalition build, right? We have to allow people to like join the coalition. And you know, you can respond, and then I'd just like to ask you a couple questions, and then I'll probably be done.
Sure. So I disagree. I'm sorry. I'm tired of begging people to stand alongside of me to help people. I'm literally tired of begging people to actually, if you're so worried about me saying that you don't go far enough to help people, then you're a part of the problem. If the messaging is that you want to be able to say racist stuff or say sexist, misogynist stuff, and it's a problem with you that I say, no, you can't do it and you need to be held accountable, then you're the problem, right? I mean, the what it boils down to is the divide that you've seen lately on TikTok, which let's be honest, it's been very divisive on the left on TikTok lately. It really boils down to people, one, don't want to accept accountability, and two, they just want to be able to say the things that they want to say. They want to be able to say the R slur. They want to be able to say the N word. They want to be able to do a Schnazi salute, and they don't want any type of repercussions for doing that. They don't want to feel like they're being canceled. But the fact of the matter is, like I've said multiple times, we should be the party of standards and morals. And yes, you can have standards, you can have morals, and you can win elections. You don't have to be the lowest of the low to win.
Right. So I'm not saying we have to be the lowest of the low to win. And obviously, I'm not okay with people like using the N-word ever. Okay. And I'm not okay with people doing schmazi salutes. Okay. I'm just saying that, like, which is a bigger problem? Like the stuff that happened on TikTok with Z, or Donald Trump being in office and us not being able to fix systemic racism because there's a Republican.
Both.
Which,
both.
yeah, but like, which
the reason why Donald Trump is in office is because of stuff like that happened on TikTok with Z, and that's the piece that you're missing.
And
I'm not saying Z directly caused Donald Trump to be in office, but what I'm saying is the people that have the ideas along the same line as her, they might be at a lower level of the idea that she actually has. And I mean, sorry, she might be at a lower level idea as someone in the triple K, but there is a line connecting both ideas. And so the premise of who she is and what she did and the fact that, excuse me, she can't say I'm wrong. She can't admit that, I messed up, and she can't apologize is the same thing that the people on the right who are protesting and saying, all the hateful things and doing all the hateful things, it's all connected. It's all connected. It's all connected. And if you can't address that, then you shouldn't be leading a quote unquote movement. And no, I'm going to continue to hold you accountable if you want to be a part of my party, because I am not okay with voting beside racists. I am not okay with voting beside sexist. I am not okay with voting besides people that spew hate. I'm not okay with that. And I will call them out every single time.
Okay. So again, if let's just say we're not able to do both, would we rather
why can't we do both?
Because we tear each other apart and then we can't even win the 2024 election and we're going to lose state house.
Why did we lose the 2024 election?
We lost the 2024 election probably for a few reasons, but mainly because Biden dropped out really late. Kamala didn't have a lot of time to recover, and she lost a lot of YT people in the Midwest.
Why?
That's what happened.
Why?
She just wasn't as popular as a candidate, probably.
No. The reason why Kamala Harris, you hit those first. There's multiple factors why Kamala Harris lost the 2024 election. Yes, Joe Biden took way too long to actually drop out. Yes, Kamala Harris only had 107 days to actually run for office. Also, a majority of the exit polls show that people voted based off of the economy, saying that they were upset with inflation. They don't understand how inflation works, so they contributed inflation to the Biden-Harris ticket, i.e. towards Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. And more than anything, this country was founded on racism and sexism. When this country's constitution was written, it was written for white men that own land. Literally, white men. If you were not a white man that owned land, then the Constitution was not written for you. Everyone else was added afterwards. And the fact is that this country is rooted and based on that. People could not bring themselves to vote for a black woman, someone who has multiple intersections and is always looked at as lesser at the very bottom of the patriarch. And so that's why you see Donald Trump winning an election against a white woman like Hillary Clinton, but then losing to another white man like Joe Biden, but then winning against a black woman. So yeah, there are multiple factors, but you cannot negate the factor of the racism and sexism that also led to Kamala Harris losing the election.
Okay, so if your claim is that Harris lost because of like racism in the United States,
that was a factor. That's not the main reason, but that was a large factor.
Well, what's the main reason you think she lost?
I think it was a combination of all of them. Like, I don't want to say one is larger than the other. I will say the two that I think weigh the most, and I don't know which one is bigger, is the racism / sexism, and then the other one being the people don't understand how inflation work, and they thought that they believed Donald Trump when Donald Trump said that he was going to bring prices down day one and blah 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 blah. W's in the chat for E. What up, E? Thank you for the sub. Like, okay, so they don't understand those things.
So based on those two things, which do you think is a more like people are going to hear you out on more and want to be like, oh, you know what? Maybe moderates and liberals and even progressives aren't that bad. Which one do you think they're going to hear you out more on? A, actually, if you voted for Trump over Harris, you're a racist and a misogynist. Or B,
who's saying that?
Well, hold on.
But who's saying that?
You are saying that.
No,
You're saying that she lost because America was built on racism.
Yes,
that's literally what you said.
Yes, no, listen. You know what the funny thing about all of this is people for some reason think that like people are saying, "Oh, you're a racist or you're a misogynist if you voted for Donald Trump." No, I have never said that. I have never said that. But what I have said is if you voted for Donald Trump, racism, sexism, classism, ableism, none of those are deal breakers for you. None of those are important enough for you to say, I can't vote for this person. So I'm not saying that anyone is, those things, but at the very least, they're okay with it. And that's what I'm saying.
Right. Okay. So when I say racist, I'm not saying outwardly racist. I'm saying they're at least implicitly racist because you guys, like, especially you, Santana, you are the one that claims that all white people are.
Yes, all white people are inherently racist. Yes, you saw me talking to Destiny and you're back to that. Cool. Were you here? I know you were here earlier when I talked to the other guy and we went through this whole thing. I can explain it to you again. We can go through the full thought process, but how about we just like fast forward this and tell me like what did you think of the conversation that I had with the guy earlier about it?
Which I only joined when that Tyga guy joined.
Okay, so you missed it. So
I mean, I can just ask 2 questions and we
can
go
ahead.
Fast forward. So when you talked to Destiny, you said he asked you how much racism is acceptable.
Is acceptable. Scale of 1 to 10. I said none.
Okay. But you also argue that all white people are inherently racist, right?
Yes, all white people are inherently racist.
Is there room for any sort of white people in a progressive movement at all?
Yes.
But how can that make sense? So
because there's a difference between being passively aggressive and I'm sorry, between being damn it, my brain is fried right now. There's a difference between being actively racist and passively racist, and there's the whole thing that I went through earlier with the guy was just to get him to understand the biggest point is that everyone has implicit biases, whether you are, a white person and you get access to the patriarch, which benefits you, whether you take benefits or not. If you are a man, you are inherently misogynist and you get access to certain things that women don't get access to. If you are able-bodied, you are overtly racist and anti-racist. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And if you are able-bodied, then you are inherently ableist, right? And the whole thing is I'm trying to tell people is that understanding that you have those inherent features, you have those inherent biases, and being able to address those are the only way that it can lead to you actually deconstructing, which allows you to be an accomplice where you actually lend your privilege to people in marginalized groups, you uplift their voice, and that's how you join a movement. There's no way. I'm a man, and I will always be misogynist because I am a man. And every single day I have to work on being anti-misogynist. Just like as a white man, every day you should work on being anti-racist. And that's my point. I'm not saying that you can't be in the movement because you're white. I'm saying that if you can actually understand that you have white privilege that gives you access to certain things that as a black man, I don't have access to, as long as you can actually acknowledge that and then use your privilege to help other people, then you are more than welcome in the actual movement. That's the point.
Okay, awesome. Just really, I guess 2 things off of that. Number 1, then we should change the phrasing of all white people are inherently racist to all white people have biases or implicit biases. Because I agree with you.
It's the same thing.
It's
inherent
not.
racism.
It's not.
Yeah, inherent racism is set based on inherent racism is based on the actual structure that is created through society that allows white people to be at the top of the patriarch. Like literally.
I understand that, but when you say that, moderates and independent voters and people that are older, because
it makes them feel uncomfortable, right?
Yes, it turns them off.
I'm sorry. I don't give a fuck about them feeling uncomfortable.
You don't care about winning elections.
No, I don't give a fuck about them. I don't give a fuck about them feeling uncomfortable because we are talking about people who are losing their lives every day. And if you are going to tell me that you don't want to quote unquote vote beside me because I made you feel uncomfortable versus someone actually harming people, who are stripping away the rights of everyday people, someone who is actually, causing women to unalive, someone that is violating the Constitution. If you're telling me that you can't vote beside me because I made you feel uncomfortable in your racism and by holding a mirror up to you, versus you wanting to vote beside someone who is actively harming individuals and the country, then you are the problem.
Shouldn't we focus on the Trump effects of this?
No,
rather than, like,
we
just
focus on
beating
Trump
on
too
people?
much. Like, that's the problem. We focus on Trump too much. It, like, people have obviously said, yes, they know Orange Man bad. Like, they know this. Like, people that are voting for Donald Trump know who he is. And literally, you can talk to people who voted for Donald Trump, and those people, just 24 hours ago, those people loved Elon Musk. And as soon as Elon Musk went on Twitter and he started talking about, oh, Donald Trump is on the Epstein files, you know what they started saying? Well, we already knew that. We already knew that. And also, Elon's a South African, right? The people that voted for Donald Trump will always justify Donald Trump. So us saying Orange Man bad is not going to actually change anything. We need to target that, there's 10 to 20 million registered voters who don't vote. Those are the people that we need to target.
In a presidential election, that's not even a big majority of the people that.
How many votes did Donald Trump win by?
Well, it's not a popular vote, but
I hear you, but how many votes did Donald Trump win by?
I'm not sure. Of the total population, though, I think there was like 80 to 100 million people voted, 120. Like, we're talking about 5 to 10% of people.
Yeah. So Donald Trump won by, I think it's like 2 million votes or whatever. But the thing is the actual margins, right? When you talk about actually getting those people in those margins, in those swing states, in those different areas, if those people actually vote, then it flips the electoral college. It flips the electoral college. If you talk about infusing 10 million voters across the country, I mean, you look at states like Michigan. I think I'm sorry, I don't want to claim which state. One state though was won by, I think, like 10,000 votes, like a super slim amount. Say it again.
Probably a state in the Midwest, and
no, it was a swing state. It was one of the swing states.
Right. There are many swing states in the Midwest.
Yeah. I guess Michigan would be considered Midwest, right?
Midwest, yes. My point is,
I never think about Midwest. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What was one of the largest swing demographics in terms of change from 2020 to 2024 on who they voted?
Young white men.
Okay, then shouldn't we be trying to appeal to them and not hammering them over the head with, oh, you need to deconstruct?
Do you want to appeal them, or do you want to appeal to them, or do you want to coddle them?
I want to appeal to them so that they vote with our interests.
Sure. How do you appeal to these young white men?
You talk to them about lowering gas prices, lowering grocery costs, getting their health care covered. They don't care about that. How do you know?
Because they literally voted for Donald Trump and the Trump administration, who utilized people like Aiden Ross, who didn't talk about any of that stuff, but just talked about how cool Donald Trump was and did a dance in front of a Tesla. Like, the way that he was able to tap into those young white men is by targeting people that those young white men look up to, not by action. Donald Trump is a populist candidate.
I agree.
He didn't do anything. He didn't speak to the people who need to hear that, hey, we're going to fix gas prices. Hey, we're going to lower grocery prices. Yeah, he said those things, but Donald Trump ran as a populist candidate, and the people that were willing to vote for him, especially young white men, leaned into that populist candidate.
I agree. How do we get them to lean in our direction? Do you think it's by saying, oh, you need to do racism and all these things, or is it, hey, actually inflation wasn't that bad, and the Democrats are actually going to do a real good job of bringing that down, and look how terrible Trump has been in 2016 and 2024.
Neither.
Really?
Neither. What I think, the thing that I think you do is, I think you go to them and you say, hey, you have a lower standard of living than your parents or your grandparents. Your grandparents were able to buy houses. Your grandparents were able to work one job and live. This Republican Party has passed legislation that not only strips away your ability to buy a home, but also has done things and put multiple restrictions on you that's going to make it harder for you to retire, to save, to actually grow in any way or shape or form. And I'm sorry, it's not about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a 70, almost 80-year-old man. He is a figurehead, and the Republican Party has been doing this for a long time. The Republican Party has been focused on multiple things like Project 2025, like overturning Roe. They've been focused on multiple things way before Donald Trump, and they will continue to focus on things way after Donald Trump. It's not about saying orange man bad.
I agree. Everything you just said about the standard of living and inflation and the Republicans like corroding the middle class and our way of like being able to retire at a timely age. I agree with everything you just said. I would lead with that when we're trying to appeal to young YT people, any people really in this country, not just them. I just brought them up because they were the biggest swing, right?
Yeah, but
leave it there. We don't have to bring up, oh, actually, by the way, too, you're like implicitly racist. Like no one wants to hear
why,
that.
Steven? Why? Because it makes them feel uncomfortable, but you don't change, and you don't change by being comfortable. There's no way we can be better as individuals and as a country by being comfortable. You don't get any type of progression with comfort. And if you're voting for the left, then you should be voting for progression. And if you're voting for progression, you have to understand that we have to stand in our discomfort every single day, and that's the only way that we can get better. Give me a second, guys. W's in the chat for Caleb. Caleb sent a $5 YouTube super chat to say, this is a long one. Hold on. This is a long one, Caleb. Caleb sent a $5 donation to say, if you could articulate an argument better, and if actually had TikTok, I would argue that moderates encourage open-mindedness and compromise, reduce pluralization, and the risk of undermining consequences of radical policy changes due to pragmatic approach rather than ideology. Sometimes the response to socialist problems, there's a temptation to swing hard in the opposite direction. A moderate pace ensures that policies address the root issues without creating a new extreme or injustice in the other direction. Even though I'm a coward moderate, I still love you, brother. Keep what you're doing. Listen, Caleb, you know how much I love you. And yes, you are still a coward moderate. And my premise is more so based in the fact that we need a hard swing to the left to actually get certain progressions that we need in this country. But I love you nonetheless. We'll continue to talk about it. Anyway, guys, W's in the chat for Caleb for that $5 donation. Guys, Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, all the pay links are in the link tree in the bio. Santana Speaks 24, best way to support the live. Everything is accepted. Anything's appreciated. Professor W's in the chat. Thank you for the galaxy. Also, if you're over on YouTube, you can send a YouTube super chat, and I will read that out. Listen, Steven, we have someone up on the panel right now that I have never, ever had on my panel, but it is someone who, one, is way more intelligent than me in multiple factors. Two, can articulate an actual point way better than I can, that can speak to specific points of intersectionality, and also can really help you understand why we shouldn't coddle young white men and why it's important to sit in the discomfort in order to get progression. But without any further ado, Adorna, how are you?
Hey, Santana, that was such a nice introduction. I appreciate that.
Listen, I admire you so much, like legitimately. I'm telling you, anytime that I see you hanging around, I always pop in, and you've taught me so much. But I'm here. I would love for you to actually teach Steven at this point, because I think he's missing it.
Yeah, I think that I was listening to the conversation, and I think the issue is that Steven, you may not realize some of the things that are being faced by marginalized groups that are, wait, I should ask first, are you white?
I am YT, yes.
Right. Okay, great. Well, I mean, you know what I mean. But okay, so the issue is this, right? Let's say we were to say to young white men, we're not in a great economic state right now. And so if you vote Democrat, these are the things that we're going to do to help you be able to, for example, purchase a house the way that your grandparents could, right? Let's say we did that for them. while not addressing their implicit biases, as you'd stated, right? The problem with that is that in 2023, the Department of Justice stated that they'd had to sue 10 different banks over the past 2 years for redlining, meaning when Black people had higher credit scores, higher salaries, less debt to income ratio, we were less likely to receive a mortgage. And even when we did, we were more likely to have higher interest rates, right? So now let's say we tell white people, we're going to fix the issue for you so that you're able to afford a house, but they still have these implicit biases. So now we voted Democrats back in. They can buy a house, but they're still discriminating against us, and we're still not now able to buy houses. So we've helped you guys fix your problem, but all of your biases are still there, and we've helped you get to where you want to be, and now you're still discriminating against us. That's the issue. That it's from a very privileged standpoint by which you say that, because it only helps you.
Okay, before I respond, before he introduced you, to be clear, I don't want to coddle anyone. I just want Democrats and liberals and progressives to win elections, okay? And we do that by appealing to people, okay? But to address what you said, as far as the discrimination against non-white people and getting a house and loans, I agree with that, okay? And that's definitely backed up. How do we address that from a policy standpoint?
I don't think that, well, so I mean, the problem is this. We've tried addressing that from a policy standpoint. Biden, for example, had a couple of things in place. We already had the Fair Housing Act from 1968. But then because this discrimination was still happening, he put into place the Fair Housing Act to affirmatively further fair housing. So he tried to address that. He also put into action something called the PAVE Act, which is the Property Appraisal and Valuation Act. It was an action plan in a committee that he put together, right? That didn't have a long time to take place, though, like to actually sink in before Trump came into office, and obviously now all of that is getting dissolved.
Right.
We try to now state, because all of those things, like those things that were put into place, are saying, hey, there's still discrimination happening, right? But if we try to bring in young white men without addressing the fact that there's implicit bias exists, then they are just going to want to continue along the lines of, okay, well, let's continue not speaking about this racism stuff and fix all of the economic stuff. So these policies, I don't think would even get back into place, because we've now moved into a world, or at least Trump is trying to, where white men are being coddled, is the word that we're using, right? And so now if we move further into that world, just minus any talk of discrimination, even if we get Democrats back into office, we won't necessarily be, I don't think, putting back into place those types of policies, because now we've moved away from that.
Okay. How many like applicants that are non-white were like discriminated against? Do they have numbers for that?
Yeah, they do have numbers. I mean, you want the actual numbers?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. I mean, we could look at the numbers. Why is that pertinent?
Because I think that I just want to get a ballpark on it. And as far as like the things you brought up about Biden, like addressing it with policy, do you think those policies would have been more effective if he was reelected, or if a Democrat won in 2024?
I do. I mean, I do. We were already moving along those lines. We'd seen through Biden's presidency that Black wealth had increased by 60%. He'd put into place, except that the exacerbation between white wealth went up more. Mm-hmm. So our wealth went up, but white wealth went up even more. So the difference, still was it increased. But the point being that he put into place he made permanent the Minority Business Development Agency. So things like that he was putting into place that were actually things to help marginalized groups. So
I think all that's great. I mean, so if we were able to convince young white voters to vote for Harris more than Trump, then we would have seen these policies.
Yeah, the problem is this, right? Well,
I see people even more.
Yeah, I think that the way that we address it is that we have to in addition to teaching about implicit bias, et cetera, we would have to let white people know what's in it for them. Because, I mean, truthfully, most people are thinking about things that directly impact them personally, right? Citigroup has yeah, you said you disagree?
No, I agree. Regardless of race.
Yeah, so Citigroup has a report that states that over the past 20 years, we lost out on $16 trillion over the past 20 years, added to the economy because of racism, specifically just on Black people, not even including other racially marginalized groups. Just from racism to Black people, we've lost out on $20 trillion. And if over the next 5 years we were to fix a lot of these disparities, that we would gain $5 trillion, right? So teaching them about racism actually helps them economically. If the problem is, hey, we want to try to reel them in by saying, hey, we want to help you make more money and be able to own a home, be able to afford school, etc. Getting rid of racism actually helps white people do those things.
Right. So I guess my question, based on what you said so far, and I agree with most of it, and I will take the numbers you're saying as true. Do you think that for success, like race in America, do you think that it has to be one or the other as far as one group being successful? Or do you think that all of us on the left especially, we can all come together and we can all, I guess everybody eats, for lack of a better term, white people can do better, Black people can do better, every race can do better, right? Based on these policies.
I think that it is theoretically possible. The problem is that that the way capitalism works is that someone has to be, in order for someone to have more, someone else has to have less, right? You have to have a permanent working class in order to have the elites, as people call them, et cetera. You have to have a permanent working class. And what people don't understand about racism is that was the purpose, for the most part, was to have this permanent working class, but to have people think these people deserve it. Like if you were to just say, we're going to keep these people poor because we need people to work, I think most people would revolt. They'd be like, oh, that's not fair. But if you say, hey, these people are lazy, fatherless homes, look how criminalistic they are, then people don't go against that because they're like, okay, well, the reason that they're so poor is because they deserve it. It's their culture, right? You have those things. And this is intentional, despite a lot of the numbers not working out in favor of these stereotypes. But that's what kind of keeps the machine running, is having a permanent working class. And so in order to not have that, white people would just have to agree to have less, is the truth. And I don't know that happens without that. I don't think if we ask nicely that they'll give up having more. Yeah.
So would you consider yourself anti-capitalist?
Me personally, yes.
Okay. So, and you think that capitalism just means like one group has to have less for another to have more?
Well, how else would it work?
I mean, if you work at a company and you work your way up the ladder, you'll make more of a salary. Usually, if you work harder.
Oh, if you grab them bootstraps.
Yeah, the problem is that if everyone is making a higher salary, right? The company has less profit. And then the CEO won't get 300 times, the average worker, if that's the case. And clearly shareholders don't like that. The execs don't like that. So everyone getting higher pay is not good for the company.
Right. I would agree with you. I'm not exactly a big fan of CEOs making tens of millions of dollars and someone else making $25 an hour or less. I'm just saying that if we want to address systemic problems, right, we have to address it within the framework of capitalism for now, at least. Because socialism and any other alternative to capitalism is deeply unpopular to 95% of America.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I don't think that's definitely not something that would happen overnight. And clearly we would have to work within the current system.
Right.
So I do agree with that. But I do think that doesn't mean not educating people on the harm that's coming to others as a result.
I agree. But in this hypothetical, would you rather, and I'll use young YT people, men, again, because, again, they were the biggest swing demographic, or at least one of the biggest ones. Would you rather educate them and 80% of them just don't listen and they continue to vote conservative? Or would you rather like talk to them about policy and 50% of them change their mind?
Well, this is why I said that I think that you can do both in regards to educating about racism and kind of getting them to vote for what they think is their best interest financially.
I think the last election tells you that you're wrong.
No, I don't think I don't think we attempted that at all. I think that what we usually do is go, hey guys, racism bad. And then we talk about taxes and stuff separately. And that's why I said if we explain how racism impacts the economy and then impacts them directly. So there's something called rational ignorance. I don't know if you've ever heard of this concept. So rational ignorance means that people tend to not learn about things when they feel as though the cost of learning it outweighs the benefit that they'll receive from learning it, right? So it can't just be racism is bad. It has to be racism actually impacts you by making you like, for example, college used to be free, right? Now we know everyone has all of these school loans, and it's no coincidence that in 1964, the Civil Rights Act was passed, and then all of a sudden in 1968, they're like, guys, this free college thing, it's not so. So it impacted white people too. And so if we talk about racism in that it impacts you as well, financially, not just racism is bad, racism is directly impacting you as a white person, I think actually that would make a difference.
Right, and I completely understand that. Do you have like a modern day example of that?
Of what?
Of like a policy that is like, it doesn't have to be like enacted de facto racism, but like something today that can be traced to racism.
Tons of things.
Would actually also benefit YT people. Just one. But I know you have one. I want to build a hypothetical off of it.
Okay, sure. Something that, okay, sure. So, despite the fact that disproportionately Black people are more in poverty, through numbers alone, there are more white people in the country, so more white people are in poverty in terms of actual hard numbers, despite disproportionately it being Black people, which means that there are a lot of white people also living in like low income neighborhoods. So something like de facto redlining that's currently happening where it lowers the property value in these neighborhoods that would be considered low income, which usually overlaps with Black people. There are also white people living in these neighborhoods. So that the lower property value is also impacting white people.
Okay, and a solution to that could be like voting for Democrats over Republicans, because Democrats are mostly in favor of a stronger social safety net, right? More access to public services, so that people that are in that like quartile of income or quintile, like they can build themselves up using public services some of the time where they don't have the money for things, right? That could be like something that we try and do.
Yeah, I mean, not even
things, right? That could be like something that we try and do.
The $25,000 for new homeowners, et cetera. She's going to increase the bills and give incentives to new to developers and to build actually new neighborhoods. And I mean, all of this would have also helped white people. I just don't think that. I think that when white people think low income and people people don't have money, they think Black people. When no, it's actually you guys too. But I don't think it's framed in that way.
Okay. And then I brought that all up. If we had to choose a way to dress that up to someone, because it's politics, we know messaging is incredibly important. Would we want to, like the conversation we just had, do we want to say it that way? Or do we want to say like, also you're like implicitly racist, even if you're poor, you're still white, and like you still need to address that? Which one do we want to do? Or what should we at least do first?
Yeah, so the problem is, right, okay, it's been several centuries since slavery started, right? The problem is whenever we talk about what should happen first, somehow that second half about, educating people on slavery, that never seems to roll around. So it's like, let's do this first, and then we'll work on the slavery after, and then the working on the slavery part just doesn't exist. That's the problem. We would work on that first, and those same people that we've helped now get into a better position would have their boots on our neck.
But if the
And
policy
then we would never
is-
get to that second half. Excuse me?
But if the policy is the thing we just talked about, it's for poor YT people and poor Black people, that would help both of them at the same time, right?
In theory, it would, except that I think that what would just end up happening is that new and better ways would come around to discriminate in terms, it's specifically for us, right? I think, yeah.
And I think that's a terrible thing. I don't like discrimination based on race. Okay, I don't want that. That's obviously a very negative thing. It's terrible. But if the hypothetical was, we help 95 out of 100 Black people and we help 99 out of 100 white people get out of poor neighborhoods, right? And that 5% is still incredibly, it's terrible, right? But the other option is we don't get anything passed,
Yeah,
and
so
none of those 100 Black people get any better material condition.
yeah, so the problem is, so that's why I said in theory it should work that way. I have an example of that already though. Affirmative action, right? Affirmative action was like, even though people think that, oh, Black people were just getting into Harvard, you know, even though they were making Fs. White women is who it helped more. The thought was, oh, well, you know, it was for Black people, and then we're just going to spread it out and make it for everyone. And that all that ended up happening was they were like, ooh, how can we still make white people benefit more? That's what ended up happening. So that's what would happen here as well. It would be nice if, oh, well, most Black people also got helped, but that's not how it usually ends up working.
And yeah, I can appreciate that, and that's also bad. But again, like the hypothetical I laid out, if we lead with just talking to people about policy,
why do you keep laying out hypotheticals
Because
instead of
I
actually dealing with the things that we can see right in our face? I mean, like Adorna has not only addressed your hypotheticals, but given you like specific statistical data to back up multiple things that she said, and also direct correlations as far as how we can address this. Why are you so stuck on hypotheticals that really just get back to you want to make sure that white people feel comfortable because you think making them feel comfortable is the only way that we can get them to like vote for quote unquote our side?
I'm not about making people comfortable or uncomfortable.
That's what this whole conversation is about.
I'm about appealing to them. And the reason that I'm offering hypotheticals is because unfortunately, okay, we don't live in an idealist world where no one gets discriminated against, okay, and everyone like gets treated equally regardless of race. I can't think of a policy, because Biden tried to do it and tons of other presidents have tried to do it, that will outlaw like every single type of discrimination when it comes to these things. There's not gonna, it's kind of back to the how much, and this is harsh, how much racism is tolerable in a society.
Who is trying to outlaw racism?
I'm saying that the policies try to deal with anti-discrimination, like the housing stuff that Adorna brought up under Biden. But we don't have that anymore because we couldn't convince YT, like young YT men, to vote with us because we're more concerned about telling them that they're racist.
Did you hear why Adorna said that we couldn't get them to vote for us? Because like she literally, I've been listening this whole time, and she has been immaculate in her answers. Like, have you not heard how she said that we would have to address those things?
Yes, she said that we would have to also address their racial biases as well as talk to them about policy.
Yeah, but more specifically, explain how these biases, because when people think racism, although we have white people going, hey, we experience racism too. I mean, realistically, really, when we think racism, we think, you know, what's happening to like Black people and other racially marginalized groups, right? So so when we talk about that, people aren't thinking, well, how is racism impacting white people other than name calling, right? People aren't thinking, how is this impacting me in terms of buying a house? How is it impacting me in terms of getting venture capital, et cetera? Like, they're not thinking of that. So we would have to specifically tie in racism with how it's impact. And this is just my opinion, right? Tie in racism with how it's impacting white people. I don't think that we've been doing that. I think that they've been very separate. We haven't been saying, hey, you know, the economy's bad, and you could make more money if you would understand that you being biased, and so your bias is preventing Black people from buying houses, which prevents them from or from starting businesses, which impacts the economy because we can't get employees, and then people aren't making money, which means they're not spending. Like, if we were to tie in how racism is impacting them as well, I feel like that would help. But I think if you just leave it off, I mean, it literally is just to make white people feel better. Like,
right. I just again, like, do you guys think messaging is important?
I do.
You do? Okay. I think it's the most important thing in politics because, let's be honest, the majority of voters, they're not listening to lives like these, okay? They vote like based on their feelings. They're dumb, okay? So if we want to talk to these people, we can talk about policies on a very like simple level.
Yeah, but do you think that Kamala was talking about racism? That's not why she lost. Kamala didn't talk about racism on the campaign trail.
No, I don't think that's why she lost. I'm saying that you have to convince young YT people to vote with your favor, okay? Because it's just a numbers game.
Afford housing, we're going to tax the rich. And so she tried to do it the way that I think you're talking. Afford housing, we're going to tax the rich. And so that didn't help. I think the reason Trump won was because it was like, hey guys, here's some people we can hate. So we're going to help you get money just all alone and by itself, I don't think that worked either. So what are you proposing that would be different than what?
Right. I'm not saying like we can't swing people that are in the cult already. I'm just saying independent voters that we can sway. The messaging is really important, and the messaging should be about policy. It shouldn't be about why they're implicitly racist. But I feel like circles. I appreciate the conversation. It's getting late where I'm at, so I'm gonna head out. But I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right.
Wait. I do have. Wait. Sorry. Someone asked me to ask you something. 1 second.
Yeah. Also, while she's looking for that, just a couple of quick things. W's in the chat for Phil. Phil sent a $5 donation saying, "Why do so many people resort to all versus most? We can eradicate racism, but we can't eradicate racism, but we can do a lot to minimize it." W's in the chat for Phil. You're absolutely right. W's in the chat for Sir Bobbles, who sent a $4.99 YouTube super chat to say, "Gosh, someday I'll get TikTok to join you. I just want to also provide a great positive influence for the quote unquote debaters. Help spread the movement." Listen, Sir Bobbles, you get a TikTok, you get over here, I'll let you come hang out with me on the panel. Guys, also Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, all the pay links in the bio. Did he leave?
He did.
Santana Speaks 24, best way to support the live. Everything is accepted, anything is appreciated. Adorna, do you have to go?
Oh, I don't have to go, no.
Can you hang out a little while?
If that's okay, yes, I'd love to.
Okay, guys, this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna stay for a little while longer because I have never had Adorna on my live, so we have her now. So understand that if you are in the box, the actual shark in the water is not me. You don't have to worry about me being up here anymore. If you come up here, you have to deal with Adorna, which is way worse. I'm sorry, you have no chance. So with that being said, if you disagree with anything on the background, get in the box. If you disagree with anything on the background, get in the box. Also, let's show Adorna some love. She's at 2.12K coins right now. Let's run this up. Let's get Adorna up to 5K coins. Let's show her some love. Let's appreciate her while she's up on the panel. Let's show her how we do here in the actual late night communities while we're sparring. So make sure that we are gifting her, show her some appreciation. Adorna, do you have your pay links in your bio?
Yep.
Perfect. Mods, can we grab her pay links out of her bio and get them running in the poll? Guys, let's make sure that we take care of Adorna, not only with the actual gifts, but let's make sure that we're hitting her pay links as well. I'm going to go ahead and let a couple more people up. Guys, only request up if you disagree with something on the background. If you do not disagree with something on the background, please do not request up. Please do not request up if you do not disagree with something on the background.
Say something real quick. So two people had asked me to say something. One person, he asked me to say which I did bring up, and he kind of switched away from it, but just the $16 trillion that we'd lost from the economy due to racism over the past 20 years. So I did bring that one up. And then I'd received another one that asked me to, that said they wished that I was able to address that one of the tenets of white supremacy is the right to comfort. So yeah, but thank you guys.
Absolutely. Is it Sean or
it's just Sean.
Sean. Hey, Sean. Sean, did you vote left, right, or are you a non-voter / third-party voter?
That's where this is awkward because I was going to come up while the other guy Stephen was talking. I voted for Harris.
Okay. You came up to give him one for.
Yeah, I just wanted to try to give him an explanation of why, like, just forcing people to not be racist is not the way to go about it. But I'll let you get back to your show. So
perfect. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Right. Have a good one, man.
You as well. Guys, only request up if you disagree with something on the background. We are only talking to someone who disagree with anything on the background. And just to make sure that I highlight this is not just for, Trump supporters, right? This is for people that disagree for some reason. If you don't think that moderates are cowards, if you are MAGA and you don't think that MAGA is a hate group, if you don't think that the left doesn't listen, if you don't think that MAGA, your feelings are scary, or if you don't think that third party / non-voters are suckers, if you disagree with any of that, get in the box. Life coach, you are a teacup. I need you to come back in order to be able to hear you. Life coach, are you there? Life coach going once. Life coach going twice. All right, I'm gonna drop you. This wicked work to come in immediately and turn into a teacup. All right, let's see here. Spinning. Guys, while this person is loading in, or Queen is a friendly. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and drop Queen because I think Queen might try to bail us. I don't know what's happening. Guys, keep tapping the screen. Let's go ahead and get the likes up to 150,000 likes. Let's get the likes up to 150,000 likes. Again, guys, check it. And if you are in the box, make sure that you are someone that disagrees with something on the background. We are only talking to people that disagree with something on the background. If you do not disagree with something on the background, please do not request up. Aaron, how are you?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely. Aaron, did you vote left, right, or are you a non-voter?
Left.
All right, perfect. Aaron, what do you disagree with? Do you disagree with moderates or cowards, or do you disagree with the fact that the left doesn't listen?
Well, no, hold up. You said anything on the screen, and I said the left doesn't listen. The left listens. Come on now.
Are you talking to me through like a tuna can, or what? What are you using?
My bad. Is this better?
No, it just sounds weird. I mean, it's okay. It just sounds like, I don't know. It sounds like you're speaking to me through like the first telephone ever.
Awesome.
Okay. All right. So how does the left listen?
I think the left is more open to listening, right? Like,
you think so? So, okay, cool. Let's talk about the leaders that are currently in power, right? The current establishment of Democratic leaders. There are multiple people and groups that have called for younger, more progressive views. There are multiple instances where there's been a movement behind going more progressive, but established Democrats don't want to lose access to power. So they do things like stifle Bernie Sanders' ability to get a presidential nomination. They do things like appointing someone in a powerful position instead of AOC, an actual member of Congress who had cancer. Instead of appointing AOC, they constantly do things like not advocate for universal health care or universal education. So tell me where the left is actually listening, specifically listening to the part of their party that's saying we want more, we want better.
Okay, yeah, you covered a lot of ground there. So
I wanted to cast a wide net for you.
Yeah. AOC, can you focus in on one thing I can answer on? I mean,
sure. Just give me an example of the established Democratic Party listening to their actual constituents.
Well, wow, that freaks me out, man. Like literally, I live in Washington State. I'm a blue state regardless because we got Seattle, and I moved out to a rural, more rural area like 6 years ago. So I'm thinking about getting more active in politics. Like, man, our country's going to shit, man. Donald Trump and Elon are fighting. Oh my God, this is gonna, I think we're all gonna be fine. We're all gonna be fine.
I hear you. Listen, Aaron, I appreciate you so much, but like the tin can sound is kind of messing with me. Also, it doesn't really seem like you have a specific argument for the background. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually move it along. I appreciate you coming up, and we can talk another time.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah, thank you. Reese, did you vote left, right, or are you a non-voter? Reese? Okay. All right, I'm gonna drop you as well. Adorna, what is happening?
Yeah, that's so odd.
Oh my gosh. There's certain people that I know, like, okay, I'll bring this person up and maybe okay.
And thank you so much to Angela for the $5 Venmo. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey, W's in the chat for Angela. Guys, let's make sure I just renewed Adorna's pay links. They are in the bio. Let's keep hitting her pay links. And also, now that we have her over 5K coins, let's get her to 10. Let's make sure that we are appreciating Adorna while she's here. And also, if you're not following her for some reason, follow her. If you're not following this account, make sure you follow this account. This is the main account now. This is the main account. So make sure if you look up here and it says follow, hit that follow button. Make sure you follow this account. Follow Adorna. Bless her pay link. Show her some love in her pay links. And let's get her coins over 10K coins. I know we can do it. It's late for her. She's hanging out with us. She's doing this labor. Guys, if she's going to be here, we have to appreciate her and show her some love. So let's do the things. Monopoly. How are you? Is he asleep? Did he wait that long and fall asleep?
He's definitely snoring.
Let me tell you, this guy he's been requesting for a long time, and I specifically haven't wanted to speak with him because I know who he is and what he's about. And for him to finally get up here is wild. Vote for her. Vote for her. How are you?
All right. How are you?
Wonderful, wonderful. Vote for her. Did you vote left, right, or are you a non-voter?
I voted for Kamala Harris in 2024.
Awesome, awesome. Vote for her. What do you agree or disagree with on the background? Do you disagree that moderates are cowards, or do you disagree with the left doesn't listen?
I would say the moderates are cowards. I'm iffy on that one.
Tell me why.
Well, I was hoping maybe you could tell me more about what you mean there.
Yeah, absolutely. The moderates, people who stand close enough to the fence to reach over and, hold hands with the Republican Party or sometimes even vote with them is the biggest reason why we don't have progression within our country. It's the biggest reason why we don't have certain things that other first world countries or developed nations have. And in order for us to actually be able to get access to said things, we have to strip away that modern stance and lean into being more progressive, which includes freedoms for everyone, not just the specific group of people.
Well, definitely a lot we can work with there. So just kind of two positions that I have here. One is that uh, you might be right with all that, but I find myself thinking, how could we possibly know uh, whether or not what you are saying is correct? And then the other position is that you're not correct. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, I think.
Wait, what?
Well, so I mean, I disagree. I think I disagree with you. I mean, I'm not an expert on politics or campaign, any of that really, but like, I think I disagree with what you're saying about uh, it being problematic to try to bring people into our party. Um, and then, I mean, I could also argue that like, how could we even possibly know whether what you're saying is true or not?
What part, friend? I'm so confused right now. Adorna, do you understand where he's going?
No.
No, that's my bad because I'm trying to argue two things at once, I think. So I'll just narrow it down and say
Okay.
that I disagree. I think it's important to try to bring people over from the other side.
Okay, cool.
And
You think that
then
we
when we
have the
do that,
ability
yeah.
to actually pull people over from MAGA?
I mean, shoot, man, it's been done before.
So do you think the moderates help do that because they aren't extreme, what you would consider to be extreme? So you think moderates help pull people over from MAGA?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Well, from my perspective, it tends to be, at least in my opinion, that moderates are okay with a lot of the things that people who would consider themselves leftists wouldn't be okay with. Like certain things aren't a deal breaker for them. That's what I like to say. And so kind of like what the guy that was up here before, I don't know if you were, I think his name was Steven, guy that was up here a couple people ago. But he was like, I mean, can't we just leave a little racism? Like, you can't get rid of all of it. And so they tend to be like, okay, I'm on the left, but I'm okay with allowing a lot of these things to still happen. Whereas we're like, okay, none of this is acceptable.
Okay. Well, and I mean, I can relate to how you feel or how I think you feel based on what you just said, because that's how I feel about the situation. And to elaborate on that, I feel like the person in the White House right now is so dangerous and so racist that that we have to do everything, even if it goes against. Like, I feel like I don't have the luxury of picking and choosing who I work with to save my country. Like, because I can't tolerate the racism that's in the White House right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, you say that no racism is tolerable when, trying to win elections. I feel like no racism is tolerable when I am voting.
What?
Like,
What are you even saying at this point? I'm legitimately, I'm not, I ain't even gonna hold you. Like,
let me try to clarify.
Like,
so, yeah. Well, I feel like our country is in so much danger right now that I've got to do everything I can. And even if it feels wrong, right? Even if it sounds wrong, it's a desperate situation.
I think I see what you're saying. I think what you're saying is not that we want to be okay with those things like racism or ableism or sexism, etc. But the situation is so dire that get him out first, at least, because he's so detrimental. Get him out, and then we'll try to, work on things later. Is that what
don't make his argument for him and make it sound smart. No, vote for her. You finish demonstrating to us what you know, because like I want you to make a coherent point. No.
I guess I just yeah, I mean, I feel like I understand where y'all are coming from, and I understand the importance of the work that has to be done on society. I understand that, and I agree with all of that for sure. But my feeling is that if we don't address this emergency that is in the White House right now, I don't think we'll ever get the chance. That's how I feel. Like I'm shook. So I appreciate where y'all are coming from. My feeling is that, like, I don't know. I'm shook about where this country is headed.
Ditto. I am too. Yeah. I mean, it is a tough one. It is, because potentially we are heading somewhere really extreme. I mean, is that what you're saying, though? Is what you're saying deal with a little bit so that we can get him out and then fix things later?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's not that serious, right? But it feels very serious to me.
Yeah, I think it's that serious. I mean, I think it's very serious. So I don't know if you guys know about this, but just yesterday or day before yesterday, they introduced a bill, Republicans, and I haven't seen, I think I've seen maybe one video about it, but they introduced a bill stating that medical schools can no longer teach about racial disparities when it comes to the healthcare field at all. Like, they can't teach that Black people tend to receive less pain medication. They can't teach that EGFR has a has a multiplier specifically for Black people that makes us less likely to get kidney transplants. So we're literally heading, because it's like, don't mention anything about race, don't mention anything that's happening to Black people, et cetera, literally heading up towards a place where it's physically going to be detrimental for us. So I understand what you're saying, and I agree that we're moving in a horrible direction. But it kind of is the same thing. It sounds like you're saying almost the same thing. Don't mention race so that we can get rid of him, and not mentioning race is the same thing that they're saying to do.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly seeing what the difference is.
Hey, Adorna, I'm for some reason, I don't know what's going on. People are being weird, but we got close to time anyway. I'm not sure who is being super sensitive, but apparently they don't like something we've said. But hey, if you're free tomorrow, come back, because I'm going to be sparring tomorrow. I would love for us to do this again tomorrow.
I'd love to. I'm not usually up this late, but I'm going to be here tomorrow.
Tomorrow it'll be earlier in the day. So.
Okay.
All right.
Perfect. Yep.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
All right, guys, we got to cut this short before this actually goes down. So I'm going to make this short, sweet, and simple. W's in the chat for Justin. Thank you for the 5. W's in the chat for Angela. Thank you for the 5. I love you all. We're going to get out of here because we have to protect this account. Make sure you hit the follow button if you're not following this account. Make sure you follow this account. I'll see you all again tomorrow. We're going to get out of here because haters going to hate, but they can't stop me. They can't take me down. I love you all.